up? What's up? What's up, y'all? Happy whatever day it is. Oh, 4th of July. Yeah, happy 4th of July. To those that celebrate it. Uh, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay, okay. Yes. Unfortunately, fortunately, I do have a story to talk about. Unfortunately, it's not a good story in any way, shape, or form. Surely a lot of y'all have heard about the 16 children rescued from the House of Horrors in Ohio. Um, I have reactions from the neighbors. I have numerous information for y'all. Reactions from the neighbors, etc., etc. So, with that being said, I ain't gonna hold y'all long. However, I do hope to hold y'all long enough to get the meat and potatoes of the case. Shout out to WSYX ABC 6. Shout out to them. Here we go.
Terrific. That's just nasty. Terrific, really is.
It's stupid that it's happening close to Wellston and Benton County. Benton County, I mean, you don't know what's going on in this world anymore.
And as
Shock,
you can hear,
disbelief, and heartbreak. That's how neighbors in the small...
as you can hear, even though that this is Ohio, this is quite a quote unquote country part of Ohio.
Village of Hamden are describing what they've learned.
I've heard there were a lot of animals in the home as well, so I can just imagine what the kids lived in.
It all follows a horrible find at this small home. 16 children living in terrible conditions.
I come up down there all the time. I never seen a kid out here.
Neighbors coming down Omer Street to see this house for themselves, and they're asking the simple question, how was this able to happen?
Or did they know the kids were there? I mean, that's just where it kind of bothers me. If they knew the kids were there, they should have been removed, I think.
Tuesday night, people who live here say they're still struggling to make sense of what happened just down the street.
But it's not, I mean, it's not Benton County per se. It's just where they chose to bring their chaos. Because I was told that they weren't from here.
Absolutely. I mean, I was born and raised in Columbus, and this here, for down here, is very sad and shocking. Because you wouldn't expect to hear it in a village of 200.
I'm not used to seeing here in America. It really looked third world. Most of our lifestyle was kept in better conditions than the children.
This is not the time for you to argue your case. Count 5, count 7, count 12, count 17. Each of those felonies of the second degree.
The children were kept in a roughly 12 by 12 area. It seems like is where they've spent the most of the last 4 years.
You know, sometimes when you're on set all day, you can have a good amount of downtime in between scenes. It turns out now you can play games and get paid for it. There's this app called Free Cash. At first I was like, oh, word, that's the name you're going with? You don't want to waste it.
Pure evil. Those were the words used to describe what was happening behind closed doors at a home in Benton County.
4 suspects are facing serious charges now after 16 children were discovered in what authorities call a house of horrors. Sheriff's deputies searched that home on Tuesday, finding kids covered in feces, urine, and filth, held in a 12 by 12 room for 4 years.
How?
Detectives say some of them were so ill they were close to dying.
We have team coverage of this unprecedented investigation rattling a small town and beyond tonight.
Chief Investigator Lisa Rontola is digging into how the family kept these children hidden there for years. First, we begin with Annabelle Kinney, who talked with neighbors living doors down from this horrific scene. This is the home where the 16 children were being kept. Neighbors that live just across the street say if they would have known what was happening, they would have jumped in to help.
It's disgusting, and I didn't sleep a whole lot last night, and I prayed a whole lot that all them kids get better.
It looked like something out of a third world country. That's how Ohio Attorney General Andy Wilson described the conditions inside the home where investigators say 16 children were being kept.
Just almost beyond comprehension that this stuff can happen in our country, and that it can happen in a house at the hands of people who are in charge of taking care of kids.
Wilson says 7 of the kids were sent to Columbus area hospitals on Tuesday. Josh Odell says he can see the backyard of the home where police say the kids were being kept and hidden.
We had the little girl ourselves, so it immediately alarmed me like there's some very bad people that was just right there.
He says in his 5 years of living there, he's never seen any children and wants more answers.
Did they give birth at the hospital to all these kids? Where's those records? And something that struck me is that these people are not from around here.
Officials say the children were not enrolled in school. The Benton County Sheriff says due to the children being isolated and some children being developmentally disabled, it has impacted the investigation.
It's one of the investigative challenges we have to face is that they are limited. They can't communicate.
Joseph Stewart is another neighbor that lives next door. He says he's seen the 4 people charged going to Dollar General every once in a while, but never any kids.
Kind of ashamed that they did stuff like that. After I seen the pictures of the mugshot today, and they look pretty rough.
Odell says the guilt of not knowing is taking a toll on him.
I really hope they all get better. But I mean, it obviously is weight on my conscience that I wished I could have done something.
Now, investigators say the suspects are the kids' grandmother, grandfather, and father and mother, and that they could have been living in a 12 by 12 room for years. Reporting live in Benton County, Annabelle Kinney, ABC 6 News.
Annabelle, thank you very much. Investigators say that Vinton County home first hit their radar out of a separate investigation. And that's why they say they executed their first search warrant, and then they found those abused kids.
ABC 6 on your side. Chief Investigator Lisa Rontola spent the afternoon at the courthouse tracking down those search warrants.
Jessica, Mike, this afternoon I spoke with 2 judges, 1 clerk, who tell me here at the courthouse this afternoon, one county judge did tell me he did sign 1 search warrant for that home, which is sealed tonight. A probate judge confirmed he signed a 2nd search warrant, also sealed. Now, a common pleas court judge has the case of a mother, father, grandmother, and grandfather who could face more than 100 years behind bars. Gary Siders Jr. and Sr. facing 17 counts, Elizabeth Siders and Mom Christina facing 16.
These are serious allegations, and if you are unsure on what to do, I will enter a not guilty plea for you until you can consult with counsel.
Prosecutors described the 4 as mother, grandmother, grandfather, and father, and accused them of abusing more than a dozen children from 1 year old to 18 years old. The first victim, it shows that they are 18 years old. Why is that an child endangerment charge?
Good question. The young person's mental capacity, she is, we believe, developmentally disabled.
They tell me the 18-year-old could not spell her own name. The others were also not enrolled in school. Did these children know how to read and write?
Yeah, again, we're working through that right now. Some of these children couldn't even speak.
Investigators say the family kept children hidden for years, avoiding being part of any medical or government records since 2008. How were you
Dang.
able to acquire the dates of birth? Were you able to get hospital records, or were some of these children born inside that home?
There's no evidence that any of the children were born inside that home, although that is something that they were initially investigating.
Wine on a Walmart budget.
I'm Greg.
I'm Julie, and we're the Crafty Winers.
Investigating.
And investigators said today they are looking into more charges. Part of that investigation, they're trying to determine if any of these children, any of the victims, were sexually assaulted. As for that parallel investigation, investigators say that started about 4 to 6 weeks ago, but as of tonight, we have not found any other charges against these 4 victims other than child endangerment. Reporting live in Vinton County, I'm Chief Investigator.
I have a feeling that we're going to find out it's a lot more than neglect, child abuse, and child endangerment. Cause I've been hearing things that the number of children is supposed to be higher than 16. To what I've heard.
Lisa Rontola.
Lisa, thank you very much. There are still so many questions about all of this tonight. We are trying to get answers about all these things. We have requested any 911 calls that led to this investigation, any previous law enforcement runs to that home, and any prior involvement with Children's Services.
The age range of the kids there's a lot of specific hurdles involved in this crime. We will get you that information as soon as we can. We just want to let you know that, also to touch back on that the community is safe. They're just as safe as the day before you learned that this had happened. And we're still working on it. We're going to do the best we can to make sure you guys are informed. So, thank you.
Okay, I'm Andy Wilson, Ohio's Attorney General. I want to open up by saying, like I did yesterday, like I do every time I talk about a criminal case that's just been charged, that under our American criminal justice system, everybody who is charged looked at the presumption of innocent, and they remain innocent unless and until they are taken into court and proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That being said, I'm coming to this press conference directly from the Sheriff's Office, where I had the opportunity again to sit down with Sheriff's Office detectives and with some of our BCI agents, and I was briefed, updated on the status of the investigation and the case, and I actually had the opportunity today to look at some of the evidence of the case. I was out at the scene with our agents and the detectives yesterday, so I saw the location, I saw the condition that it was in. Some of the evidence, yesterday when I saw the location, the kids were already gone. They were being treated at the hospital. The evidence I got to see today was some evidence where the initial discovery of the children was captured or documented. And again, I've done these types of cases for a long time. I've been in incredibly poverty-stricken areas in the inner city. I've been in poverty-stricken areas in rural Ohio. And I've just never seen anything like I saw today with respect to those kids. As we sat and we talked about it, as the team kind of talked about it, it really looked third world. It's the type of thing that we're not used to seeing here in America, where our children are really our most precious resource, and we have an obligation as parents, guardians, and custodians to love our kids, to care for our kids, to ensure that they are safe, that they are well fed, that they have safe conditions to live in. That's what we expect here in America. And again, what I saw today, the evidence, what I've seen up to this point in this case is just almost beyond comprehension that this stuff can happen in our country, and that it can happen in a house at the hands of people who are in charge of taking care of kids. In looking at the evidence, I can tell you without hesitation that a lot of credit has to go to local law enforcement, to Ohio BCI. I have The superintendent of PCI, Bruce Pichanowski, with me here today, and I have the on-scene supervisor, Jim Mulford, who really was his team that put this case together, and local sheriff's deputies and sheriff's detectives in putting this investigation together. They took it to the prosecutor's office to get the warrant, or at least have the warrant approved. And the reason I say that is because, again, a lot of credit goes to the men and women of this investigative team, because I'm telling you, in what I've seen up to this point, I think if they would have waited another 24 hours, there was a very high probability that we'd be dealing with a death or multiple deaths of these children. I'm not going to go specifically into the medical conditions of the kids, other to say that is, since the discovery of this situation, as you heard the prosecutor say yesterday, our number one concern has been the physical well-being of those children. Several of the children were, all of the children were examined and treated. Several of the children, I believe 7 of them, were taken to Columbus hospitals, and as I told you yesterday, I think at least 2 of them were care flighted. Those children, again, continue. We continue to treat and make sure that they are okay. Their physical well-being is our number one concern. But we also have to be concerned with their mental and emotional well-being as well. And I can tell you, on behalf of the investigative team, on behalf of the prosecutor, the sheriff's office, that is the number one priority, is to make sure that these kids are taken care of physically, mentally, and emotionally. And part of that, as you heard the prosecutor say, is making sure that they are placed, that custody of these children is removed from the people who did this to them, and that these kids are placed in safe, loving environments where, again, it's going to take a lot of work to address
a lot of work and a lot of time.
The emotional harm and some of the issues that are going to result from this. But we need to make sure that those kids are surrounded and loved and supported by people who truly care for them. And we talked to the investigative team this morning, and it appears from the evidence in this case that these kids have been in a position where people they should have been able to trust to take care of them have failed them. Not only failed them, but harmed them. And it's now up to us to stand up for those kids. And you saw that yesterday from the detectives and the agents who went in and removed the kids from this physical location. But now it's on the system, and working with Prosecutor Archer and talking with him through the case, he understands fully that one of the best ways that you can help these kids, one of the best ways that you can address their long-term emotional and mental needs is by holding accountable the people who harm them. And talking to him about the evidence, talking to him about his plan for the case, I am confident that he's dedicated to seeing that justice is done for these kids, and that the community, again, remains safe for everybody. We have offered the help of the Ohio Attorney General's office any way we can. We have our Special Prosecutions Division. I have Jimmy Lowe, who's the Deputy Attorney General for Law Enforcement. He's been down with us all morning. We've offered up prosecutors from our Special Prosecution Division to assist, and I believe we're gonna partner in helping with that case. But our role is one of support and leveraging our resources. I want to thank Governor Mike DeWine. I talked to Governor DeWine a couple times yesterday. I talked to Kara Winty, who is the director of the Department of Children and Youth, ensuring that the needs of these kids, the placement of these kids, because as you can imagine, placing 16 kids in a county of this size taxes the resources. I have assurances from the governor and from the Department of Children and Youth, the governor's staff, that they will provide whatever we need, whatever resources we need to support these kids and help protect these kids. The other thing I want to say is this, as the prosecutor said, this is isolated to an intrafamilial event. The citizens of this community don't have to worry about their kids being part of this, or somebody out there in addition to this that may be doing harm to their kids.
Is here, and I needed it because my fridge is super empty.
Come on.
harm to their kids. If anybody out there has information about this family and about these kids, if they call the Ohio Attorney General's office, and we'll have that number here available after this press conference. They call the Ohio Attorney General's office to our tip line. We certainly will get that to BCI, and we will want to talk to you as the investigation moves forward. So with that, I certainly appreciate the good work of everybody involved in this case. And Steve, I think at this point we should turn it over to a few questions.
Attorney General Wilson, I'll start real quick because I think it would be helpful for others to know. You said yesterday that this family has been traveling and it's been here for I don't know how long of a period of time. Can you talk about how long they've been in Benton County, and then can you share any information about where they have been prior that perhaps other families in other parts of the country that may see this and wonder, wait, the deciders were living here and I'm worried about what might have happened in my hometown. What are they been here? Where did they come from?
Sure, we know that they have ties to Gallia County. There was some talk that they may have been down in Pike County. There was some talk that possibly they're in Jackson County. There's some talk that they were up in Wisconsin for a little bit. And it appears that they've been back here in Benton County for about 4 years.
Was Elizabeth the mother of all of these children, and how were you guys tipped off on this?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that because it's an ongoing investigation.
Attorney General, can you said the conditions were third world-like. Can you describe some of the conditions?
It's almost indescribable. The sheriff is on the scene as well. I probably ought to have him come up, but boy,
I was thinking livestock, but
yeah,
mostly kept better. As I was saying, most of our livestock was kept in better conditions than the children. It was extremely high presence, I'm sure, of bacterial and human feces. It was just a disgusting scene.
Can I ask you, what did you feel like walking through there? Not necessarily what it looked like in the description, but what was going through your mind?
So it was disgusting, even where the kids weren't. I would think it's typical. Most law enforcement have experience with homes in a similar fashion. A large number of people, though, the children were kept in a roughly 12 by 12 area. It seems like it's where they've spent the most of the last 4 years, and that's what it looks like. In a weird way, you're hit with two emotions. There is joy when we realize that we're about to change 16 lives for the better. But you're also, it's hard.
Were there any signs of sexual abuse towards the children, and did they ever go outside?
That's part of the ongoing investigation.
Yeah, we Yeah, so I'll answer. That's part of the ongoing investigation. We can't answer that. I will tell you this. There isn't much evidence that kids live there. We've talked to some of the neighbors. We've talked to some of the people from the neighborhood. These people have been here for about 4 years, and we've talked to some people who live in the neighborhood who said, I had no idea that kids were even there. And talking about, somebody asked about, to describe the conditions, adding on to what the sheriff said. I didn't actually go into the room where the kids were. I just looked through the door. That was yesterday. I can still smell. I can't get the smell. I cannot get the smell off of me or away from me right now. We were just talking about that a little while ago. And then we were talking as a group about some of the evidence we looked at today where they actually discovered the kids and found the kids. And it really, it's not that different than those old commercials you see of like kids in Africa, like just where they were covered in bugs and squatting and had that like distant look in their eyes. It's terrible. I mean, it is absolutely terrible. And again, we got to make sure the kids are safe. We We got to make sure they're placed in good, solid therapeutic placements, and we have to hold accountable the people who are willing to do this to their own family.
Were kids enrolled in school? Were the kids enrolled in school?
No.
Are there any warning signs that investigators are now looking at, considering that this was happening in our community for such a long time and went unnoticed? What is being done about that looking ahead?
Yeah, well, obviously, we'll look at you look at every single case and look at lessons you can learn or how you can do it better so conditions don't repeat themselves. So we're certainly looking at that. Again, the evidence shows that these folks were pretty good at hiding these kids. And I think you're going to see that part of the reason they were hiding these kids is they knew that these kids were neglected. They knew that if anybody actually knew what was going on, these kids probably would have been removed and they would have lost them.
Right.
They would have lost the kids. So, they were pretty adept at keeping these kids out of sight and out of the eyes of investigators.
Right.
We have an obligation, and again, that's one of the things I talked to Kara Winty about yesterday. We have an obligation to go.
Your life is full. Your future shouldn't have to wait. At Houston Christian University, you can earn your degree 100% online on your schedule. Career.
Have an obligation to go back and look at these situations and look at areas where we can make improvements. And having worked with Governor DeWine for a long time, I know that's exactly what he does in every single case. So we'll go back and look at the full case, the full investigation. Really, right now, I told the investigative team this morning, even though this all blew up yesterday, we're really just at the beginning of all of this. We're dealing with making sure the kids are safe, making sure that the kids get placed, gathering the evidence, doing the search warrants, taking in the property, doing all of the casework type of stuff we have to do. I'm certain that down the road we'll look broader at those type of issues as well.
Not in the system or any mandatory report become aware of this was this granted by law enforcement and it came to the sheriff's department first or how did you guys work?
Yeah, all I can tell you on that part is there was an investigation, a parallel investigation going on for something else that led law enforcement to that house on the search warrant. And they went into the house on the search warrant and discovered this.
Why were the conditions?
Are they hospitalized?
So as of this morning, some were basically examined and released last night. Some were admitted to Columbus hospitals last night. I know that there was one that was in ICU that was in critical condition, was intubated at one point, and I don't know who all's been released and who hasn't, other than the 7 were stayed overnight.
Are your children being isolated like this when you rescued them? Were they able to talk and communicate?
That's one of the challenges we're facing during That's one of the challenges we're facing. That's why there's kind of contributes to a lack of information. It's one of the investigative challenges we have to face is that they are limited. They can communicate, but it's extremely limited, and some not at all at the moment.
Are any of these children, are they found on Amber Alerts, missing kids platforms or anything like that?
Why were the conditions deemed unsafe for officers to go in?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. So as they were doing the search warrant yesterday and moving property, they literally were about to fall through the floor.
Was there any indication that the kids were both public life or education prior to moving in county?
Not at this time, no.
How long was this investigation going on? Were there any complaints that were made to local child welfare authorities?
Well, again, I'm talking about the part of the investigation that got us to the search warrant, and that was an ongoing cooperative investigation that had gone on. Again, something unrelated. It wasn't about the welfare of these 16 kids. And at that point, we didn't know that there were going to be 16 kids there. We weren't. Again, when I talk to people, people were like, "No, I haven't seen any kids. I haven't seen any kids there." So some of that is out there with respect to the parallel investigation. That was going on. I don't know. It was a joint effort between Benton County and BCI, maybe a month, 6 weeks, but that was not related to the conditions of the house or the welfare. Literally, they were coming to the culmination of that other investigation, which led them to do a search warrant at that house.
Are there birth certificates for the children? Are there birth certificates for the children? Anything on record?
We're still part of that. That's something we're working on.
How exactly are the four defendants related to each other? I don't want to make myself here.
Grandma, Grandpa, Father, and Mother at this point. That's what we know.
So is it fair to say that what led you to find those kids was a parallel ongoing investigation at that time?
I think so. Yeah, that's absolutely.
Can we expect more charges for these people?
I hope so.
Obviously, it's an ongoing investigation, and there could be more charges as we continue to uncover evidence.
Do you know if they'll have any more protection in jail? Any type of protection?
Currently, at the regional jail, they are aware of their crimes and or the allegation of their crimes, and appropriately are treating them as any other inmate accused of those crimes are while in population.
This small town is still trying to process the details that investigators have laid out in this case. Now, we did speak with a local store employee who says that she served the Siders the night before they were arrested. More than a day after 16 children were removed from a home in the small village of Hamden. People are still coming to Omer Street trying to understand how something like this could have happened.
It's absolutely heartbreaking, especially since I've got a 20-year-old and a 14-year-old daughter, and I've heard that some of these kids never saw the light of day.
The shock comes after these four people were charged with 17 counts of child endangerment. The Benton County Sheriff described the conditions inside the home as horrific.
It was mind blown once I saw the mugshot. I spoke it to them. I just seen them on Monday. They were my last customers on Monday. It's sad. It's crazy. It's a sad situation.
Employees at the Hamden Dollar General say the Siders were regular customers, stopping in almost every night just before closing, buying water, vegetable oil, and sometimes sugar, often accompanied by just one of the children.
I noticed that he would keep her really close to her, and she was not allowed to speak to nobody. I noticed that. And when she came in with the kids were all very thin, very, very thin, ghost white, didn't have no weight on their body, and they had their hair over their face, to block out, the outside world to not see them.
Ariel Gutierrez says store employees tried to help, offering the family clothes and hygiene products. But she says they never saw those items put to use. Investigators have described the conditions inside the home as unforgettable. The Ohio Attorney General saying the smell inside the home is something he can't forget. Gutierrez says that same odor was noticeable every time the family walked into the store.
The smell to me, honestly, when I think about them and hear them, the smell will never leave my mind. I will always have that smell in my mind, sad to say, just because it was so potent. They could have left the store 5 minutes ago and the store would still smell.
Now she says her focus is on the children, hoping they finally have the chance at a better life.
Right.
Just sorry to the children, and I'm sorry that I should have said something sooner, and I'm praying, and I know they're in better conditions now, and hopefully they get what they deserve.
As the community continues to process what happened, many say they're praying for the children and hoping Hamden can begin to heal.
Gotta go and make sure, and we gotta trust that God has.
Investigators say that those children are now at hospitals across the state of Ohio, and that this investigation is still ongoing.
Tubi, free movies and live TV.
Okay, that's the end of that. I'm now going to switch it over to Dr. Patrice Berry. Let's get it. I'll be right back in a second.
Dr. Berry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go.
Welcome
This is a case that I saw come across my timeline within the past day or so, and more details are going to continue to come out. This is a developing case. Everything I'm going to say in this video is based on my understanding of news reporting. I have links to the things that have been helpful to me as I've gathered information. And then I know Grizzly True Crime, it's 2 p.m. Eastern in about an hour. I know Grizzly True Crime is going to go live discussing this case as well. My goal, so any case I cover, I want to think about what can we learn from this situation. And so I'm definitely going to be talking about the effects of severe deprivation on a child's brain, on a developing mind. We have research. We know that certain milestones need to be met. Children need to be exposed to things by a certain time in order to have typical language development. And I also just have some tips and recommendations just in case one of the foster parents that are going to be caring for these children, just in case they come across this video, or if there are any foster or adoptive parents that have, or kinship care, any people that come across children that have experienced this level of harm, some of the road forward, just some of the tips and things that may be helpful in general in situations like this. So a little bit more about the case that we will be discussing today. This case comes out of Vinton County, Ohio, and the police were called to the home to execute a search warrant on something else. And we do not know exactly what that something else was. Just for a content warning, I will not be going into all of the specifics. I've listened to the press conferences and the state of the home. It's my understanding at one point it was deemed unsafe for officers to even be inside because I guess the floorboards, on what I heard, it sounded like the floorboards weren't completely stable. There were 16 children that were found in about a 12 by 12 space. And it's our understanding that for the past 4 years, these children, they have spent most of their time in that 12 by 12 space. 16 children, ranging in age from 18 years old until about maybe 1.5 years old. A lot of the younger children, they do not have medical records, so they don't have birth certificates, they don't have, so getting to know their birth dates, getting to know a lot of that information, the state is going to have to try to see how they can figure out some of that information. A lot of people are upset that the family don't have stronger charges right now, but I think they just did a significant charge so they could get in and get the children safe, because when they arrived to the home, there were 1 or 2 children that were like in a severe medical state, where I believe 2 children had to be transported by helicopter to a medical facility that I think had a trauma center. They were so it's my understanding there's severe malnutrition, that the conditions, so it's an extreme hoarding situation where they're animals, not animal, but like there's human and there's a lot. So I don't want to re-traumatize anybody, but if you would like to know the detail of this case, like I said, go on ahead and take a look. I have also heard interviews of people that worked at the Dollar Tree. So it's my understanding that the mother and that some of the other family members, every now and then they would go to a nearby Dollar Tree. They normally went out late at night, and they remember there being the smell. And that they offered them additional hygiene supplies that I think sometimes they didn't always take. And they did sometimes see some children, because the neighbors talk about not seeing any children. And there's 16 children living in this home, and the neighbors never really saw children. They were not aware that children lived there. None of the children, to my understanding, were in any type of formal education, because if a child arrived to school regularly with a really severe smell, they would normally they might do a home visit. They might make sure that everything was okay at home. I have worked with individuals where their own personal hygiene was sometimes difficult, so it was just sometimes the smell was just due to their own personal hygiene. I've also worked with families that maybe they had they burned coal, like their the smell that their furnace put off would kind of get into people's clothes, and they would have the kind of the smoky smell. But this was like feces. This was really, really bad. And everybody that's seen it or heard it has just talked about how horrific the conditions these children were living in. So Elizabeth, and I'm pulling up my information. I want to say Elizabeth Sider. Y'all know me in names. Yes. So the mother of these, we believe it's the mother of all 16 children. She is only 33 years old, but I looked up, and she, I didn't personally look it up, based on some of the reporting that is out there, and I have links. Her lawyer has also confirmed that she was married to the father of the children, because they got married when he was 18 and she was 15 years old out in West Virginia. I think when they got married, she was likely pregnant with the child that is now 18 years old. That is my sofa speculation. Okay? So she is only 33 years old, but she was married at 15, and the oldest child is 18 years old. And there has been reporting that all of the children are her children. So that's, and they're probably gonna do DNA testing. They're going to make sure, because they want to rule out any type of additional harm, specifically SA. They want to rule any of that out. The 18-year-old, based on reporting, she has significant developmental concerns. She was unable to write her name, and some of the communication, and also like these children are likely traumatized because they're being ripped from the only situation they know. So the condition they were living in, that was their normal. So for me, if I was to walk into a home like that, I would be like appalled, I would be gagging, like I would have difficulty, like if I was to walk into that condition, because I've never lived in a condition that was unsanitary, unsafe. For these children, a clean environment is actually less normal for them. And so to their foster families, because sometimes children that have been raised in conditions like this, they do not know how to clean up after themselves. They do not have proper hygiene. And I'm speaking in general, but I'm guessing these children likely, I don't know that they were eating 3 meals a day, because it sounds like food might have been limited. And I think this family, I think they were concerned that if the state was aware of the children, that they would take them. But these children needed to be in a safe environment. So I think that's why, that's my general thought. I think if the mother had delivered these children, and if there was a record of all of these children, I think social services might have gotten involved. There's also speculation. We have not seen anything to confirm this or not. Because it comes out of West Virginia, some people start speculating, like, could there be any type of substance issue? The grandparent, so the people arrested were the grandparents, and they're the paternal grandparents, the father of the children, who was, because he was 18 years old when she was 33, so I think he is like 6 or 37 years old right now. And based on reporting I've heard, when they got married, his his highest level of education completed was 9th grade. At 18 years old, he was likely taking 10th grade classes, and the highest level of education she had completed was 8th grade. And I'm just saying all of this information just so that we have a general idea of what we're kind of working with. I do believe that their parental rights will likely be terminated. I don't think those children will ever return to their care. The level of now, if this had just been a little neglectful, do you know what I mean? Like sometimes the state, people do parenting classes, people try to work on it.
This is not neglect.
Unless
This
there was
is
clear evidence
mistreatment.
that she was trying, or that somebody was trying to protect these children, that they were upset about the conditions that the children were in. But what can happen is that nobody protected these children. And I do not see these individuals ever getting custody of these children back, ever. And so those are just some of my general thoughts. How many people were living in the home? So 16 children, the mother, the father, and the grandparents. So a total of 20 people living in the home, but the children all stayed in a 12 by 12 room. And it's my understanding anytime they were seen out in public, they didn't really speak that much. Some of the children may have speech and developmental delays, and none of the children had any type of formal education. We talked about the children's hair being matted, that there were bugs on the children. The state these children were living in was I'm trying to manage my words so that we're a little bit more YouTube friendly. It was really, really bad. And Elizabeth, so that's the mother, her lawyer has kind of objected to people using statements like livestock don't live in this type of condition, but that's some of the language that's been used at the press conferences. So I do have a link down below. If you haven't seen, a news station in that local area did an interview with Elizabeth's lawyer. So that is the 33-year-old mother, we believe, of all 16 children. I'm not sure if any of the children are twins, because she likely, if none of them are twins, she had a child back to back to back. Like as soon as she had a child, she was probably pregnant very quickly. If she truly is the birth mother to all 16 of those children. If there might be a set of twins, we don't know. But it's going to be difficult because there aren't records, so there aren't formal records for these children. As I mentioned, I don't believe she delivered these children in a traditional hospital setting. There are a lot of unknown. So the family had lived in that home for about 4 years. They've moved around. They've lived in some other places. Okay, so there could be several sets of children, of twins. So I don't know that for sure. I'm just guessing. Wow. Somebody mentioned 3 sets of twins. Wow. So I have not heard that. The criminal charges list the dates of birth. Thank you. I have not been able to take a look at that yet. So thank you for that. So with this type of case, it reminds me when I was in graduate school. I forget if we learned about this case when I was in undergrad as well. But back in the 70s, there was the case of Jeannie, and I have a link to that case down in the just the Wikipedia for that case. She was severely, it was a similar deprivation type case where she was kept on a potty training chair for almost all day. She was nonverbal and severely deprived of any type of communication or anything like that. When she was removed from from care, like when she was removed, I think it was from her father's care, but when she was removed from her family's care and went into state custody, a bunch of people researched, because a case like this, where a child has had no exposure, because I believe she was removed at 13 years old, and she was completely nonverbal, and they were able to scan her brain. And if parts of your brain don't get light stimulation, if it doesn't, if it's not exposed to education, so brain cells, the way that the brain is wired is early childhood development. They're meant to be forming new connections and learning new things, developing. There can be certain sensitive periods where if certain things aren't developed within a certain period of time, a child might never be able to fully take on this concept. We learned that with her case, because she was able to produce some communication, but there were some things that due to her, I think it was temporal lobe, and there were certain areas of her brain that were severely damaged. Those areas, even though the brain is very neuroplastic, but certain things, if it wasn't learned in that critical time period, it can make it very difficult to learn it down the road. Okay. I do think these children are going to have a team of therapists. They're going to have developmental, educational, because these children, they have never been in any type of school. They likely, I don't know that they know their ABCs. They're just basic things. And so, with this being the summer, they are likely going to see what type of placements are most appropriate. They are all going to have individualized education plans. The 18-year-old might be placed in, because up until the age of 21, individuals with developmental delays can receive services through the school. So they might enroll that individual. They might still enroll her in school. And even though she's technically 18 years old, but she likely doesn't have the capacity to make certain decisions for herself, because they've been charged with child harm for the 18-year-old, and I think that's going to be due to her developmental ability and not based on her chronological age. And so we will see what happens. So I'm so glad that this has been helpful. They are definitely going to have occupational therapy, physical therapy. They are going to be in therapeutic foster care. So they are going to be placed with foster parents that have been trained and have additional training and they often have additional supervision. So I've worked with students in therapeutic foster care, and they often are assigned an additional case manager that manages the therapeutic side. They are all going to have psychological evaluations. They're going to try to get an idea of where their current level of functioning is. The youngest ones have the most hope to maybe early intervention might help some of the really younger ones. They might be able to catch up. Some of the ones over the age of 12, they can still get additional supports. They can still form new connections, but there may be some damage that it might be difficult to undo. They are going to, like I said, like neurological, they are likely going to throw a full battery at this situation because these kids are probably very scared. They likely didn't trust outsiders, and this is likely a very confusing, scary experience for them. They're also not all together. There's no way they would be able to place all 16 of those children together. And I also think they might be waiting on some charges, because let's say some of the kids had bruises or something, you would have to figure out how that happened, because I've worked with some situations where children had to fight for food. And they would fight each other because it was survival. There was not enough food. The parents were still charged with neglect, and the state managed things from that perspective. But let's say these children do have any marks on them or anything, they have to figure out how that happened. It's not a crime to not have enough resources, to not have enough money, but it doesn't sound like they used available supports that were there. And I think a part of that was not wanting anyone to know what was happening in the home, because I don't think they ever took all 16 children out. People were likely not aware that there were 16 children in that home. And one of the, I think, Dollar Tree workers mentioned that, like, she just wished that she had called sooner. That because sometimes you see a situation and people, they don't want to over-report, because just because somebody has a foul smell doesn't necessarily mean that they're living in horrific squalor. But you can at least ask for a welfare check on a family, because if somebody had just entered the front door, but this family might not have opened it, because if there was, I don't know if they would have allowed somebody else to come in. This seems like a cultish. Now, I don't know that they're a cult. Do you know what I mean? I don't know that they're any, but sometimes there can be this isolation mentality that is cult-like, even if it's not connected with a specific cult group. So sometimes within a family, if we say, don't say anything, never ask anyone for food, never, like, if you have all of these rules, what happens here stays here. When you're raised in situations like that, where you're almost trained to fear the outside world, if anyone knows how many siblings you have, y'all will be taken away from us. Like, that can be a us versus them, don't trust outsiders mentality that can make it difficult when when the situation is unsafe. And this was an unsafe situation. So these children are not used to being clean, and they have probably bathed rarely. So these children are not used to regular hygiene, and there is a sensory input. And so with the foster families, they will have to work out, because initially sometimes just put a little bit of water in the bathtub. Some people will do like bubbles. They'll, even with a 15 or 16-year-old child, they'd have to make sure, because with kids like this, I would want to make sure that they weren't re-victimized in some other situation. Y'all probably know the name. It was the Turpin. It was the Turpin children that were removed from their parents. And then, unfortunately, I believe it was either foster or once they were adopted, those children ended up experiencing additional harm. I want to say it was their foster parents. And so there's often high levels of supervision, and we're watching for certain warning signs with individuals like this. All right. And even if they knew that there was no running water, I don't think anyone knew that there were 16 children inside. Once again, I don't think anyone knew that. Yeah. Okay. And also children like this, sometimes they might sneak and hoard food, because living in a house that has like a regular pantry that has a ton of food, there's a type of intervention. It's called trust-based relational intervention. It was developed by, I want to say she's Dr. Karen Purvis. I forget if she's a doctor or not, but it was developed by Karen Purvis, and all of her research, everything, she would say yes to food, because kids like this, if they're feeling, because sometimes, so these kids first need to feel safe. And telling a child no can make them feel unsafe. And now, if they're asking to run out in the street, or if they're trying to elope, there are certain things that you're always going to set boundaries with. But sometimes around food, if right before dinner the child asks for an apple, you say, yes, you can have the apple after you finish your dinner. If right before they're about to eat lunch, they ask for a banana, some granola, like, because what you do is you have a yes basket of, no matter what time it is, that if this child is feeling like they need food, that they can ask, and the answer will always be yes. There just might be conditions. And so with that, conditions might be that you just have to eat, just gotta, you can have the banana after dinner. Like, I'm putting dinner on the table right now, and so you can have it after dinner.
I did not mean to do that yet.
You can have it after dinner. I don't believe in children stealing food. I know. Like, that's it's so often individuals that have been raised in severe conditions like this, sometimes they might hoard food. And so we used to take a little, like, small Tupperware container,
Obama and Donald Trump,
and we would have some healthy snacks in it, and the client I was working with would be allowed to keep that small Tupperware container in their room. And at any time, they could ask to have it refilled. So if they did eat all those snacks, because it's normally, it might be about 300 calories, like, it's not like a ton of food, but sometimes just letting them have access to food when they feel like they need it, and then just monitoring for, like, gorging and hoarding food. I've sometimes worked with individuals that didn't have, they couldn't feel when they were hungry. So anytime there was food, they felt like they had to eat all of it. So even though the child was 4 years old, if you put 5 cheeseburgers in front of the 4-year-old, the 4-year-old's gonna eat all 5 cheeseburgers. If you put 6, like that, they're just gonna, no matter what food you put in front of them, they're gonna try to eat it all. Sometimes with cases like that, we have had to set restrictions around, okay, you can have first and seconds, and then you have to, like, wait an hour, because we're just trying to make sure that it's healthy. And so if you want an apple, but you're not getting another portion of, because if it's a 4-year-old who's already had a large helping of lasagna, they've had seconds of lasagna, and now they're still wanting more and more food, sometimes setting boundaries around that of, like, hey, you can have an apple, you can have this, but sometimes setting boundaries around that. All right. And so with normal development, with normal brain development, we normally see that between the age of birth to 12 months, the brain begins to recognize speech sounds. Babies learn the rhythm and sounds of their native language, and they start babbling and engaging in serve and return interactions. About 1 to 3 years old, there is rapid speech development. Kids normally go from speaking like 1 to 2 words to sometimes by 3 years old, they might be speaking, like, their vocabulary grows explosively. And this is in a normal, typical environment where a child is being exposed to appropriate developmental, so, like, people are reading to the child. So reading, we know that kids' vocabulary grow when we read to them. They recommend 20 minutes every day. As a working parent, it was really hard for me to do the 20 minutes every day. And so what I ended up doing was I saw a question, and I'm gonna get to it. So we had an app where my kid could have the book read to him. So I used Epic. This is not sponsored. I get nothing for saying it. We don't use that one anymore. Our library actually has a free app now where you can have where you can go through read along books. And so for families that struggle with like being able to sit down and read for 20 minutes, if they do have access to a device where they can have even the free library app and just a kid listening to words being read to them for about 20 minutes a day can be really helpful to brain development. Do you think this case is similar to the Turpins? And so I want more information because I really wonder if there was, because they were being investigated for something else. Something that was not child related. They were not aware that children were even there. So I really have questions to what else was going on in that home. So I have more questions about that right now. So we will see. All right. Aww. Someone mentioned I taught both my kids to read before they went to school. I assume that was my job. Yes. So my kiddo wasn't reading before kindergarten, but by the end of kindergarten, he was reading. I didn't even expect, like, I thought in kindergarten they'd just be like breaking graham crackers and like he already knew his ABCs before going into kindergarten, but I wasn't expecting him to be able to read. But Virginia, like they have high standards because kids so he had sight words. We had to work with him on sight words every day. This does bring up the issue of homeschooling again and how sometimes but once again, the state, nobody was aware that there were 16 children. These children most of them have likely never had medical care. And so there are going to be full workups done on all of these children. All right. So back to development, about 3 to 5 years old, they start to develop some grammar. Once again, the vocabulary continues to expand dramatically. Around 5 to 7 years old, language systems are largely established. So by 5 to 7 years old, the brain still remains highly adaptable, but acquiring language from scratch becomes increasingly difficult. So we typically say between like 5 to 7 that is a sensitive period where we want somebody exposed to their native language and where they've been talked to, where they are interacting. Once again, I don't know what the adults were doing I have more questions than answers about this case. Learning after puberty, so learning new vocabulary after puberty is still very possible, but achieving native-like grammar and pronunciation in a first language that was never learned becomes less likely. So once a person has kind of hit puberty, if they've never been exposed to their native language, once again, in a more severe type situation, that where them being able to learn all the grammar and and pronunciation, that becomes more difficult. And we know that based on cases like Jeannie. And so delayed speech, smaller vocabulary, difficulty understanding grammar, challenges with reading and writing, reduced verbal reasoning, and difficulty with social communication. So things like taking turns, interpreting tone, all of those things.
Okay.
Is this reversible? So partially it can be, and it really depends on the timing and the intervention. And so what they would want to do is make sure that, so these kids are probably also going to have speech therapy.
Right.
And once again, they're probably going to get individualized education plans. The school system is likely a part of this assessment team because they're going to have to figure out if some of these kiddos might need therapeutic programs. Are they going to be able to, because these kids are probably, I don't know if they've been around other children outside of their siblings before. And I don't know that they have appropriate social skills. And so like there's so much that these kids are going to need. And so they were all in one 12 by 12. So we don't know if the room was locked, and but they stayed in a 12 by 12 space, according to reporting. Some of the children did leave the home to go to the store with the parent, but they did not engage or interact with. So the store clerk said they saw the children, and the children seemed like timid, but like the children did not speak or any of that. All right, and so, all right, and so language development can be like building a house. The early years are when the foundation is poured. If that foundation is delayed, you can still build a strong house later. It just takes a lot more work, and some parts may not look exactly the same as if the foundation had been. And so that's where, once again, I do think there is hope that there can definitely be some improvement with intervention, but once again, these children, so for the 18-year-old, how they have lived has been her normal. And so going into an environment that is what I would deem safe might feel unsafe to that 18-year-old. And so that's where being patient, building relationship, looking at sensory needs, because there might be some things that are stimulating. They might be like an elopement risk. So sometimes like the child wants to try to find their parent. They don't really understand what's going on. The younger children sometimes adapt to the situation better, but they often have more behavioral concerns. So sometimes older children, they might kind of have an attitude. I don't know, like sometimes older children might be more sneaky, but often with younger children, we can often see some behavioral concerns. And I have heard of and so I used to work in a residential treatment center, and I used to read the charts, because there would be like 5 to 6 for each kid. There would be a social history that was just pages of just all of these things that this child has been through. At the residential facility, I worked with the youngest kids age, they were about age 5 to I think 8 years old, and hopefully those kids are able to be, hopefully these children are able to be stabilized in therapeutic foster homes, and they don't need some type of institution. But sometimes the behaviors and everything is unsafe, and they do end up needing some type of inpatient care for a period of time. I do not know what will happen with these kids. I do just hope that the individuals around, that they have patience. So the therapeutic foster families, because maybe for these kids, they might only be able to be they might only be able to tolerate being bathed like every other day. So my kiddo gets a bath every day. Like it's just what we've done since he was a child. Sometimes as you're building trust, as you're building new patterns, now these kids could end up loving water. They could end up loving the environments that they're in. They could end up adjusting incredibly well. And I hope that is the experience. I've done this work for a long time, and the individuals that ended up in my office were typically ones that were struggling. And their struggle was with, this was so outside of their norm, and it was really working with the foster family to be more flexible, and for us to develop, so for the child to feel safe, have that felt safety, and then to just work on and address whatever behaviors and things were there. Let me know if y'all have any final questions. This case is super, super heavy. One of the things I wanted to mention is that the developing brain is extraordinary and adaptable. Even after profound neglect, children can learn, build relationships, and make meaningful developmental changes. Recovery is often a long process rather than like a complete return to a typical developmental path. The outcomes will definitely vary from child to child. I don't know that these kids have like played with toys, and so making sure that just letting these kids play, letting these kids, I don't know, like this is, I really do have hope that things will be better. I did hear that the father had been charged with indecent exposure in the past. I heard that during one of the press conferences, and because of the language skills of these children, now a forensic evaluation is likely going to include some play therapy. It's hard to because I think the communication skills might make it difficult to find out exactly what happened. Now, if people are silly and if they recorded it on their devices, because they're likely doing a full forensic data download, like they are investigating everything with this case. And so if they do find anything, I think they'll definitely look into it. It's my understanding that the charge that they're facing is pretty significant. That could put them away for a long period of time. And there's a criminal side and there's a family court side. So the family court side, we will not know what's happening on that end. There's likely a protective order where there's no contact with the parents. Sometimes even in cases where the parent has been harmful to the child, sometimes the family court, until they've been convicted, sometimes the family court does require contact. For this case, and the severity of it, and with us not knowing what these kids have truly endured, because they just can't tell us yet, I could see there being a no contact order. It's my understanding that the mother, Elizabeth, once again 33 years old, married at 15, it sounds like she loves her kids. I have concerns that she wasn't able to appropriately care for them. She was, and just based on the reporting, she allegedly was not able to create a safe and stable environment for her children to thrive and grow. And that fear of the state taking them, I think that made them, go even further into, because they could have had resources. There could have been supports. I don't know that those resources would have changed anything, though. I'll just be honest. I don't know that all of this happened because they didn't have the resources. The level of depravity that I've heard about, this is something deeper. I wonder if she has her own history of trauma, but that only if that comes up in court. Her lawyer, as I mentioned, I have a link to it down in the description. Her lawyer seems to be advocating for her and trying to get a different narrative out there. She does not portray herself to be a victim, according to her lawyer, because a lot of people would wonder, okay, you were married at 15, did you feel like you couldn't leave this family? What was really going on? But sometimes when someone is in the midst of it, they don't really see how twisted, I don't know, so I don't know what her normal is either. And so we will see. Super duper sad. They are each being held on $300,000 bonds, and they will likely stay in jail. The only reason why I was mentioning family court is because sometimes, even while in jail, sometimes family court can still allow weekly phone visits, but I think there will be a protective order. They'll likely not have any contact with the children for a period of time until they fully understand what these children have gone through and if there are any additional charges, because they have to do what's in the best interest of these children. These children are likely going to want to talk to their parents. Okay, but once again, this was their normal, and that's why sometimes, even in a case where there has been confirmed or alleged harm, Sometimes the family court does still allow some contact until the criminal case is finalized. But in this case, because of the lack of ability to communicate that's been alleged with these children, I think they're going to protect the kids, and they're likely going to have no contact until they fully understand what's been going on. I heard somewhere that the house was in like a trust or something, so I don't. I'm sure Grizzly True Crime is going to look into this deeper. I don't know. How can they talk to their parents if they can't talk? So I don't know how involved the parents were with the children. So the children were just in a room for 4 years, 12 by 12. The landlord died, somebody said. So I have more questions than answers. This is definitely going to be a case that I follow. Somebody talked about the maternal grandmother has been looking for her daughter, Elizabeth, for years. She posted on Facebook every year on her daughter's birthday. So if the maternal grandparents are safe people, eventually down the road, but that's where West Virginia, everybody's going to have to figure out if this is a safe situation, and they would have to just make sure that everybody was really, so what would happen is West Virginia would do a home study, and all of those things would happen, because when you terminate parental rights, social services, legally, they often have to give biological family a first chance if they do want custody of children, but that biological family has to be appropriate. And so that's going to be a whole other process where we aren't fully going to know what's going to happen. Super duper sad case. Well, I think you mentioned speech pathologists here. Amazing. 80% of speech and development is learned within the first 3 years of life, developmentally. Yes. Praying for all the children. Thank you for mentioning that. In general, when I'm doing psychological testing, I sometimes have situations where I refer people for additional testing, because sometimes I have concerns that, so if I'm testing a 6-year-old, a 7 or an 8-year-old, and I'm concerned about their receptive and expressive language, I will often refer to speech therapy. Also, if there's an issue with fluency, sometimes the school doesn't always catch some of those things because it has to impede learning. And sometimes they don't know what's impeding learning. And so I often refer to speech therapists and other types of therapists as well. Occupational therapists, physical therapists. These children may end up with ABA services, so applied behavioral analysis. My thing with ABA is that it has to be trauma informed, because sometimes ABA just looks at behavior and changing a behavior, but if the root is trauma and you just try to give a sticker, it doesn't always, you have to address some of those other issues and things. And so I used to work for a large company, and I used to consult with their team anytime there was a ABA case that had that had any type of trauma component, because we wanted to make sure that we weren't re-traumatizing a child. Because sometimes we would work on cases where children would disrobe, or they would maybe start to become physically aggressive during certain situations and things. And we just had to figure out, how can we, number one, keep this child safe? And then how do we, number two, make sure that we're not doing something that's creating more trauma? And so, super duper. This is a lot, but definitely going to be keeping an eye on it. With this, I think the World Cup game is going on right now. It is hot here in Virginia. It is cool. It is so hot. There's earth Virginia and then the sun, and we are so close to the sun right now. Like it is, because somebody asked, oh, where are y'all going to see the 4th of July fireworks? And I'm like, I am staying at home. We will be watching on YouTube. Like it is too hot. If you do decide to go out, and if you're in the midst of the wave heat bubble, please hydrate. Make sure that you know the signs of heat exhaustion, heat stroke, that you drink before. So if you're going out for 4th of July, you need to start drinking water now. So make sure that you're really hydrated, and we're going to be staying inside. It's just, it's too hot. I know some neighbors will have fireworks going off
Hey,
and stuff.
Choose,
But
how are
yeah,
you?
we're just staying home. I'm going to be doing a members only live on Sunday. So I will be twisting my hair on Sunday and answering y'all's.
Okay. That's the end of that. I'm gonna go to Grizzly True Crime now.
I've been running this superpower school for 108 days now. It may look fancy now, but it all started.
Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Gizzle K. This is Grizzly True Crime and happy Friday to you. Also happy 4th of July weekend if you guys are celebrating that. I know we've got an international audience, but I'm sure many of you in the USA or living abroad are going to be celebrating that tomorrow. So I hope that you have a great weekend and that you stay safe and all of that. Now I will say, one, about this case, I have many questions. Two, I can see the live stream chat. You guys have a lot of the same questions I have. And two, my goodness, my inbox filled up in the last 2 days with requests to cover this case. So here we are. We're going to cover it. We're going to try to get as many details out as possible that we know so far. And just know it comes with a trigger warning. Thankfully, all 16 children found in a house where no one knew 16 children were are alive, are being treated at the hospital, some are in ICU, and the goal is to get loving and caring homes, families, to adopt them. I hope that they'll be okay. Oh my goodness, we'll go over the age ranges and everything. Please like and share if you haven't yet, because it really does help to get the word out. It helps other people to, find the replay or maybe get the notification they didn't get. Alright, if you missed me since the trial, please remember I do members and patrons live streams. So if you are either a YouTube member or you're on Patreon, you would have gotten quite a bit of content from me in the last 24 hours. If you've been wondering where I am, I've been hiking and taking you guys along, okay? So here we are, we ready? Okay, so Hampden Village. If there's any locals in chat, do let me know. Because they say Hampden Village in Vinton County in Ohio has a population of about 700 people. Now, I saw varying reports. Some of the articles will say 2,000, the average is 700, and one of the local news reporters said this particular little area where this family lived had about 200 people living in it. Now, already there I have questions of like, if there's almost no one living around you, what are you doing keeping 16 children in a house away from everyone? Like, what are you hiding? Why are you doing that? I mean, I don't even know if we'll ever know those answers, right? It's terrible. So, June 30th of 2026. I mean, today is July 3rd. It's just the other day, okay? Authorities had gone to a home on Omer Street to execute a search warrant in an unrelated investigation that started about 6 weeks prior. Now, that sounds interesting. They're not saying too much about it, but there's a little bit of information coming out. They said police that were aware that potentially 4 adults lived in the home. Now, we've got these 4. Gary Siders Sr., 73. Gary Siders Jr., his son, 36. And their wives, Christina Siders, 67, and Elizabeth Siders, 33. So that's what the police knew at that time. Which, again, I've also got questions about that. How did no one know about the kids if they were apparently born in hospitals? I don't understand. 16 of them. Oh my word. Okay, wait. Christine Side Chick said, I'm from Ohio, but not this part. Okay, well, I suppose that counts. You're from Ohio, right? But like this part, is it small? What's the population? So, okay, we get into those details. Now, March 31st, I just went a little bit, what's the backstory? When did these two meet? What's going on? March 31st of 2008, Gary Siders Jr., then 18, and Elizabeth Siders, then 15, her maiden name is Russell, married in Mason County, West Virginia. Okay, but allegedly based on Facebook rumors, so take it with a grain of salt or a pinch of salt if you like, or a knippy salt if you like, whichever you like, wherever you're from, because people say it differently all over the world. But the point is, the allegation, the rumor is that Elizabeth had been groomed, potentially by this guy, since she was 13. A penny for your thoughts. Thank you so much for the $199 sticker. They lived in Gallia County, Ohio. So then they got married in Mason County, West Virginia. But then they lived in Gallia County, Ohio, near the border. Their oldest child, who's now 18, was born 2 months later on May 30th of 2008. The family moved around southeastern Ohio, Gallia, Pike, Jackson counties, and are rumored to have spent time in Wisconsin as well. They allegedly had 15 more children. I had to do a double take when I first read about this case that you've all been sending me, right? Okay? So, when I look at the ages as well, even though at the press conferences they didn't really reveal the ages, we do have documents, and there's been reports since those documents as well of how old the kids are. And when you look at the ages, it's age 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 4 and 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, and the eldest is 18, right? And the eldest could not spell out her own name. So, we'll hear from the press conference, we'll watch it together. Sorry if you've seen it elsewhere, but it's not the same without each other, right? I've also seen it, we're gonna watch it together, okay? And we're gonna make commentary in between, because when one of the reporters asked, well, something about the 18-year-old, then the Attorney General said, well, she couldn't even spell out her own name. So it's like the children have been deprived of all education, right? And then the media's next question was, okay, but can the other children like read, write, spell? But like, obviously not. I would say obviously not. If the 18-year-old can't, the eldest can't, I don't think so. And given the conditions that are being described here, which are absolutely horrendous, I don't think so. So it's terrible. You know, it reminds me of that, was it Connecticut? That Connecticut case, that Kimberly Sullivan, who kept her stepson allegedly, locked up for over 30 years. But this is 16 children in a little room for at least 4 years is what they're thinking. In a little room for 4 years. Angela L. said, hello Grizzly, thank you Gizla, and Mods for all your hard work. Thank you for being a member for 14 months. Now also if you look at the ages of the children, guys, those are 3 sets of twins. How is this guy, that's a dumb question, but how is this guy so fertile? Oh, dude! And allegedly, well, that lady on the right is the mother of all these children. Police are not confirming that. Nobody's actually confirming that, but her attorney said all the children are hers. And I'm like, 16 children! And the last 3 are 3 sets of twins. Oh my word. Okay, so no one knew about the children. They were not enrolled in school. They'd never been to the doctor. Neighbors didn't even see them. So, yeah, okay. June 30th of 2026, Gary Siders Jr. had allegedly exposed himself on several occasions. Ew. May 23rd, 27th, and 29th, a warrant for misdemeanor indecent exposure was issued around June 29th of 2026. I think that the neighbors were aware of that because someone reported that this guy's exposing himself. I'm interested to know, was he doing that around children? Was he doing that to, who was he doing it to? The neighbors? When was he doing it? What were the circumstances? What's going on there? I think we all have lots of questions, but okay, that is part of what the investigation was about, right? That he was exposing himself on several occasions. The adults in the home had minimal criminal history, DUIs, minor traffic issues, etc. The family settled in Hampton, Vinton County, Ohio. They'd been living there for about 4 years. So the house that you see in all the drone footage on the news channels and the pictures and things like this, yeah, they'd been there for about 4 years. During the execution of a search warrant on July 1st of 2026 at approximately 10 a.m., officers were not there looking for children. They were there looking for something else, okay? But they discovered 16 children living in a 12-foot by 12-foot room. I wrote
How?
10, sorry about that. Room, that's a typo. But also how scary. 144 square feet or 13 square meters for those of you who need it in square meters like me. 13 square meters. 16 children. Allegedly, they believe that they've been kept in that room for 4 years. Okay, I already said that. So I'll repeat that again. I see it's on my bullet point there. 4 years in that little room. The children lived in deplorable, now trigger warning because it really gets grim from here, life-threatening conditions. The room was filled with human feces, urine, filth, bacteria, trash, hazards. Officers said the rest of the house didn't look like the children had been there at all, so no toys or signs of the children at all. They were described as malnourished, covered in feces or waste. Many were non-verbal, a scene that officers said they will never forget. They also said they'll never forget the smell. They can't get the smell off them. Shame. Imagine that for 4 years. Okay, so all 16 children were immediately removed from the home, which must have also been frightening for them. You know, I really feel for them. How traumatic. 2 were airlifted. 1 was intubated in critical condition. 7 were taken to the hospital, and officers said that some of them would have died within 24 hours if they had not been discovered. So thank goodness for the other investigation that was going on. Otherwise, some of them would not have been alive, and I worry about that because I'm like, okay, but are there more children then that we don't know about? Okay, so all 4 adults were arrested. So these are just some pictures of the house, you know, from reporters being outside. You could see it there as well. I see lots of cats in the footage as well. I don't know how many animals, there are apparently animals in the home. And I just see cats in the footage as well, so I don't know how the animals were treated, how they were, what's going on in the rest of the house, I don't know.
I'll be right back.
Do note that on Facebook or articles, there's pictures floating around of what people are saying is the inside of the house. That started as, you know, when someone makes like an AI rendition of what they think deplorable conditions will look like, and then they just share it. They start sharing it as these are photos from inside the house. As far as I can see, there are no legit photos from inside the house released at this time. July 1st of 2026, all 4 adults were arraigned in Vinton County Common Pleas Court before Judge Elena Fedorov-Rogers. Each was charged with 16 counts of second-degree felony child endangerment, 1 per child, involving serious physical harm, and they say more charges could follow. They were all assigned public defenders. All 4 pleaded not guilty. The judge apparently entered a not guilty plea on their behalf, and each of them is being held on a $300,000 cash or surety bond with no contact orders with each other and the victims. So, that's what we have there. Now, here's some quotes from an article from Associated Press, which says, about the attorney for the alleged mother of all the children, Thomas, what is his name? Thomas Stolle, said, in fact, my client's first question to me when I walked into the jail and introduced myself was about her kids. She asked if her children were okay, she asked if I knew where they were, and she asked when she'd be able to see them again. Stolle said his client told him that all of the children were born in area hospitals and she considers herself a full-time mom. How? If they're not fed, if they're not cleaned, if they're all squashed into a room, how are you saying those words? And how is the attorney saying those words with his whole face and chest? Like, she loves her children. She's a great mom. Okay? She was a full-time mom. Like, right? She apparently left high school after the 11th grade, he said, and Gary Siders Jr. was driving for DoorDash and looking for another job, he said. Stolle said the prosecutor's office has not yet shared their evidence with him, but so far he hasn't seen anything that supports Ohio Attorney General Andy Wilson's description of the family as pure evil. Sir, I think we can see it from here. But okay, you do what you gotta do. He said evil requires malice, and I didn't see any malice in his client, you know, Elizabeth. He added, I think this is more so a case of isolation than a case of evil, and I think there's an important distinction there, because if that's all you know, and you have to think someone at 15 years old doesn't know a whole lot about being an adult, about being a mother, about being a wife, and that's been your worldview for the past 17 or 18 years, you get shaped by that. Stolle said Elizabeth didn't characterize herself as a victim, but he says, I think it may be too early to actually determine what was going on there. I mean, she might be. But those children shame, and while the headlines may be sensational, he said, there's a real human component to this, and so I'd ask people to give this process time to play out. Well, sorry, whether we give it time or not, we don't affect it, you know what I mean? We, the peanut gallery, we don't affect the time. The wheels of justice are turning, you know what I mean? The children remain in temporary custody of the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services. Abuse, neglect, dependency hearings are underway in juvenile court. The investigation is active and ongoing, so there is a tip line, and you could call that if you know anything. That's why I'm asking, did anyone say, by the way, is anyone local, like, to this area? Because that'll be amazing, because it's like such a small area. Okay. Authorities are trying to determine how the family evaded detection for years, the exact parentage, relationships. Elizabeth's attorney has claimed all 16 are hers, and Gary Sider Jr.'s. Prior moves, any additional charges, things like that. They're still looking into that. And yeah, if they were born in a hospital, if all 16 children were born in hospitals, then man, something's got to change. Because like, after that, that's it. They're like born in hospitals and then, okay, bye. I mean, I want to know, were they claiming disability or child benefits or, you know, were they cashing in? Or what? Were they cashing in at all or not? Because I don't know. Alright, so they said the children weren't enrolled in school, the family moved around over the past 2 decades, and neighbors said they never spotted the kids. The children remained mostly confined to a small room in the house, investigators said, under deplorable conditions. Right under our noses, and nobody was able to help them sooner, said Emily Collins, 27, owner of VC Farm and Floral in nearby MacArthur, as she lamented how the case goes against the grain of the tight-knit community, right? Okay, and then we're almost done with the presentation, and we're moving on then to the press conferences. Now, if this is true, that is, what a shocking transformation. This is from Facebook, grain of salt. Here we go. They said this is Elizabeth Ann Siders. Locals who went to school and knew her said she hadn't had contact with her family for over 15 years. Her husband and mother-in-law controlled her every move and who she talked to. Look at her high school and look at her now. What happened? I'll report when I get more. I'm getting the feeling she was in some way victimized in the situation, but we'll have to see. What do you guys think? Because I think it is possible. I think it is possible that she's a victim too. I don't know, but I don't know. I feel my primary focus is obviously on the children. Like, whoa. Okay. Beth says that photos of AI edit. Apparently not. I don't know. These days, you know, that's why I say grain of salt, because these days, you know what I mean? These days, if there's like a real news piece or something, some clip on X or whatever, then these days everybody just says, oh, that's AI. Now, sometimes it is, and there's a lot of AI on Facebook. There's horrific AI on Facebook, but I don't know. I have seen a post that her mother, allegedly her mother, shared with a picture like this, so this has just been, you know, edited, upscaled, but apparently this is how she looked before. So, if that's true, yeah, what a transformation. Okay, so now here's one more thing, one more clip. I found here a little screenshot for you on Facebook, which says Vinton County 16, they were my last customers. They say every night just before close, the Siders family walked into the Hamden Dollar General and they bought the same 2 things, water and vegetable oil. Employee Ariel Gutierrez, who worked there roughly 2.5 years, told WSYX ABC6 that Gary and Elizabeth Siders came in almost nightly around 9:45 p.m., minutes before the 10 p.m. close, sometimes with sugar or diapers added to the routine. They said it was mind-blowing once I saw the mugshot. I saw them on Monday. They were my last customers, Gutierrez said. It's sad. It's a crazy, sad situation. She recalled one child, kept close to the adults, never allowed to speak to anyone in the store. The children she saw were thin, often with their hair over their faces. So somebody may have seen it. Maybe they were let out of the house. I don't know. Alright, so they said, and when Attorney General Andy Wilson described the smell investigators encountered inside the home, it matched something she already knew. The smell will never leave my mind. It was so potent. Employees had quietly given the family clothes and hygiene items, believing they were struggling. They say they never saw those items used. While continuing digging into the family's history, another details resurfaced. A post from 2014, sitting quietly on Facebook for over a decade, from the account of Gary Lee Siders Jr., reads, "This is Elizabeth. I don't want anyone putting any pictures of me on Facebook. Every one of you, if you have any pictures of me on here, please take them off here." Written in the first person as Elizabeth. They said, "We're not drawing any conclusions, we're just noting what's there." Just a Grizzly Susie, thank you for the $1.99 sticker. So, okay, that's the presentation. That's what I have for you. Now we're going to watch this press conference, okay? This was the first one, and it was from the Ohio Attorney General. on their channel on YouTube. Now, I do wish I could show you clips of the neighbors, but I have experience on YouTube, and I know that certain news channels like to strike a mofo. I don't want to be a striking YouTuber, because it only takes 3 strikes and your channel's gone, you know what I mean? So sorry about that. I'm not going to play those clips. But I'm going to play this, and we're going to watch the other press conference, and also show you clips from when they were, had their appearance. I won't play all of that because it's very boring. But I will show you them, they're just highlights from them, their appearance over Zoom in court. Alright, so let's look at this one. This one was from, this is July 1st. Okay, let's look at this one first. Put the sound on. Here we go.
All right, today on June 30th, the Benton County Sheriff's Office, along with the Ohio Bureau of Investigation, executed and is still continuing to investigate 182 Omar Street in Hamden, Ohio. Upon searching the home, evidence of other crimes were discovered. It's currently an ongoing investigation, and my office is still processing the scene and conducting interviews. My message to the community is that there is no outstanding threat. These are serious crimes and allegations that will be investigated fully. Our mission is to protect our citizens and our children. The scene is horrific, and these are horrific allegations. We will do anything in our power to hold those accountable to justice. I want to thank Ohio BCI, the Ohio Attorney General's Office, for working with us in this incident, the Hamden Fire Department, Benton County EMS, Jackson County EMS, Jackson County Sheriff's Office, the Ohio Department of Watercraft and Parks, Ohio Wildlife, for assisting us today. Prosecutor Bill Archer.
Good evening, William Archer, Benton County Prosecuting Attorney. We have currently in custody 4 individuals: Gary Siders Sr., Gary Siders Jr., Christina Siders, Elizabeth Siders. They're being held on 17 counts of child endangering, a felony of the 2nd degree because it involves serious physical harm. We are, it actually involves 16 children. We have 17 counts because we couldn't even talk to the kids to get names and contact information. So it'll eventually only be 16 counts. These 4 individuals will be arraigned tomorrow at 10:30 at the Benton County Court of Common Pleas. I want to stress that our focus right now is on the safety of the children. These kids are being evaluated medically, and we're trying to get them placed, and that is our primary concern right at this point. I also want to stress this is not conduct that is acceptable in Benton County. These individuals were not from Benton County. This is not appropriate and certainly is not reflective of the Benton County values. I'd like to personally thank the Attorney General and the Governor's Office for their assistance in this matter, and I will turn it now over to our Attorney General, Andy Wilson.
Okay, so this is the first press conference is another one after this, right? This one is only 12 minutes long. You guys are saying that, IB Hammer Time 2 said she went to a neighboring state where it was legal to marry at 15. Age of consent, West Virginia. What is it? That's also 16. So I think what others are saying is that her parents must have given permission or consent. I don't know.
Thank you. I'm Attorney General Andy Wilson. As you heard, the Ohio Attorney General's Office, through the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, has been involved in this case with the Benton County Sheriff's Office and the Benton County Prosecutor's Office since the beginning. That investigation culminated in a search warrant that was conducted this morning at 182 Omer Street. The Ohio BCI...
You heard that? Gemini bots? YouTube? Public record, the address, okay?
Distributed not only agents from our major crimes unit, our special victims unit, but we have analysts assigned to this case, and we will have computer forensic specialists assigned to this case, as well as our lab personnel are going to do some work in this case. We have also offered the assistance of the Special Prosecutions Section to support the Benton County Prosecutor's Office if needed. Our role in this case is one of support. We come down here, we work with the local criminal justice system, the Prosecutor's Office, the Sheriff's Office. We go shoulder to shoulder with them and fight crime and keep people safe in this community. As you heard, agents from Ohio BCI participated in the search warrant this morning with deputies from the Benton County Sheriff's Office. And when they went into that residence, 16 children were removed from that residence. And I've been doing these types of cases for a long time. I spent a big portion of my career dedicated to prosecuting these types of cases. And I can tell you this is pure evil. What we saw down here today is pure evil. And I have to commend the deputies from the Benton County Sheriff's Office and our agents from Ohio BCI and I, who went into really kind of one of the worst environments that I've seen in my career, and were there for those children in their time of need. Those children are currently being treated at hospitals throughout the state. And this is, as you heard, an ongoing investigation. I have been in contact with the governor a couple times today, who has offered to help down here. And certainly the Department of Children and Youth will be involved in this case and helping out the local children's services workers as we look at safely placing these children. Look, rural Ohio is not overlooked. We are down here, again, shoulder to shoulder with the men and women in the trenches who are keeping your families, your friends, and your communities safe. And the agents and the deputies who did this work, who did this investigation today, are on the front lines of protecting our most vulnerable victims, and that's children. You saw that today. As it is an ongoing investigation, you will see the facts continue to roll out. We will be limited in the questions that we can take or how we can answer those questions because it is an ongoing investigation that has to play itself out in court. As everybody knows, the way the American criminal justice system works is the accused are presumed to be innocent, and they are innocent in the eyes of the law unless and until they're proven guilty in a court of law. And I'm confident.
In a court of law, sir, court of public opinion, we don't like it. Sorry. Right? Some of you might be behind or so, if you missed the beginning, the presentation, make sure you check that out afterwards. Also, some are saying that you don't think they were born in hospitals because otherwise they would have had like dates of birth or social security or whatever, but they have all their dates of birth. So I think they were, because they actually very quickly learned exactly when each one was born, and that's really shocking as well, right? Hope It Fear said, I wish we knew the ages. We do. We went over that. We know. 3 sets of twins. Oh my word.
Confident based on what I've seen, based on the great work that's been done here by the county prosecutor's office and the investigative team, that we will bring this case, or we will see this case to fruition, and justice will be served for these kids. So
excellent.
That is all
I want to. Did he say this yet, Leslie? He's gonna say it. He's gonna say it in the next press conference. Leslie makes it. I'm South African. This is not third world. He does. They do say in the press conference, this is really third world, and all the articles are like, oh my word, this is so third world. I'm like, firstly, the correct terminology now is developing countries, and there's a scale, right? And I think it's unfair to just say it's third world because it's worse. It's not. You can't just say it's third world because like this is so bad. In third world countries like South Africa, developing countries where I'm from, you don't have kids. It's not like the how you can generalize that there's kids in a 12 by 12, 16 of them covered in feces. No. So I agree. I agree, Leslie. When I heard that, I'm like, sir, no, it's worse than that. Way worse. You know when they say this is not a human, it's like an animal, and then a lot of people in chat will say, no, don't say that about animals. They are worse than animals. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, same type of thing, right?
I have right now, and I guess we'll turn it back over to the group, Steve, for any questions.
There's 4 individuals were based at the residence when you guys arrived this morning. Yeah. Yes, there was 4 adults.
Was there any, did they go peacefully?
Yeah, there was no incident upon arrest.
What did they go peacefully off to do the search warrant today?
Sir.
Again, this is part of the ongoing investigation. This has been under investigation for a little while. The search warrant was the culmination of that investigation, not the culmination, but it was the next step in that investigation. I'm not going to go into the specifics, or we're not going to go into the specifics of what that information was. You have to see it play out in court.
Yes, AG, Mr. Wilson, what is the range of age of the kids, and what were the nature of their injuries?
Look, we're not going to go into the nature of the injuries. We will tell you that some of the, and again, Sheriff, you guys can jump in whatever. This is your press conference. We will tell you that several of the children are in serious condition. 2 of the children had to be care flighted to level 1 trauma centers because of the nature of the injuries, and it's very, very serious, obviously. And then the other question was the ages of the kids. So that it's my understanding the kids age from 1.5 to 18 years old.
And what's the relationship between the 4 suspects?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into that at this time.
But you are in the next press conference, sir. Sorry, which is the next day. Because I was also wondering, those 4 adults, hey, they're quite the mugshots. Damn. I don't know. I always get it wrong. A sight for sore eyes. Does that mean someone's beautiful or a sight for? I always feel like, oh no, my eyes are sore looking at it. Damn, some of those mugshots are like a little bit scary. Those poor children. Point being, you do say later, sir. Okay, I know at this time you couldn't, but it's the children's grandparents and parents, like mother, father, grandmother, grandfather. Oh my word! And it's the paternal grandfather and his wife, right? What? It's like the own family, you know? And then they did say as well, we're going to watch that press conference too, that this is not human, oh man, YouTube doesn't like this word, human tea. You know, like when you get stuck in traffic, you know what I mean? Human tea. It's not that. Because my mind went there like, where are these kids from? Where did they get them? What's going on? What were they investigating? Is it that? They say no, these kids are all theirs. I'm like, whoa.
That sounds good.
What more can you tell us about the scene? You described this as pure evil.
Yeah, look, I think all of us throughout our careers in public safety and criminal justice have been in some pretty bad scenes as far as just conditions. This probably was the worst scene that I've been in as far as the deplorable conditions. There's a search warrant. There's a secondary search warrant going on right now out at the property to continue the investigation. It's my understanding that it may not even be safe for our deputies and the agents to go into certain places of the house because again, it's just deplorable conditions you cannot even imagine people being in, let alone children living in.
Question from the
Fishies 2024 says a sight for sore eyes would be a welcoming sight. Well, then it's not that, okay? That is not what I'm describing. Okay.
online audience group, the spelling on the name of the Siders.
Siders.
And the first names again? Come to the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Siders, Gary Sr., Gary Jr., Christina, and Elizabeth.
Are the 17 charges against all four at the same time?
They are. All four adults were there at the time of the search warrant and these deplorable conditions, so they were all charged.
And then you mentioned, I really don't know how they sleep at night. You know, the four adults living there, like, how are you able to do that when you know that 16 children are in a room, 12 foot by 12 foot room, apparently for 4 years, and they're just covered in filth. I don't know how they live their everyday life. I don't know why they would do that, or what they thought's gonna happen. I don't know. It's just unbelievable.
They were new to them, or they're not county natives. When did they move to the county?
Again, this is part of the investigation, and we just have confirmed that they are not from here. They've been traveling, but beyond that, that's all we can say at this point.
Is there any reason to believe there could be more victims beyond the 16 children?
We're not going to comment on that one yet. Sorry.
Are the children local, or are they from all over the United States, or can you not comment on that?
Well, look, I think we can only say this to snuff out some rumors. It is is an ongoing investigation, but I know some of the people have been talking about the possibility of a human trafficking ring. That's not what this is. That is not what this is. So it's not like you have kids from all over creation that have been trafficked through that is distinctly not what this situation is.
Could there be additional charges?
There could be, yes, depending on the investigation, and that it is still very, very early in the process, and there are a lot of other leads that we're working on. So yes, very likely.
What degree felony did you say that was?
Felony of the second degree.
And then can you say where the kids were found in the house?
Nah, we probably shouldn't comment on that one.
Well, you do the next day. Oh, sorry. I know they can't initially.
About how the children, anything about their emotional state when you found them?
I won't talk about their emotional state, and I think the sheriff is probably best positioned to talk specifically about what happened during the search warrant. I will tell you this, their medical condition was so severe that the number one concern of the folks who are law enforcement officials who were there at the scene was getting them medical treatment, getting them to safety, to the point where literally their lives were in danger at the time.
Two more questions from online. Are any of the children related to the Siders? If so, how? And were any of the children in foster care?
Yeah. We can't answer either of those questions because the nature of the ongoing investigation.
Say boys and girls both?
I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
Boys and girls both.
Were the kids all members of the same family?
Not going to answer that one.
What you will the next day. Or the attorney will.
Okay. Listen, thank you very much. As this is an ongoing investigation, we will continue to keep you updated as more evidence comes out and as we're at a spot where we can give you more information.
Where do you
Okay, hold on.
all go from here today?
Arraignment is 10:30 tomorrow.
Where do you all go here from here today? Arraignment, 10:30 tomorrow, and that did happen. Now, somebody said, wait, where is it? The chat is flying past. Somebody said with their whole chest that there's more than 16 kids. How do you know? There's a lot of rumors in this case, so I'm trying to wade through all those waters, you know what I mean? I'm trying to stick to the press conferences, the court documents, which we're going to look at now. Then we'll look at the other press conference and the little court appearance too, right? But first, let's do some map time. Okay, and we are back. Now we've got the map up here, and we're going to Omer Street in Hamden, Vinton County, Ohio. All right. And so I just zoomed out just so that we can kind of orientate ourselves, especially if you're not from the USA or not from the area. Indianapolis is over here. Cincinnati's over here. Oh, Cincinnati, Ohio. That's where Fritz the Hippo is. If you know, you know. Okay. So then if you go to the east here, and let's zoom in. Here's the Wayne National Forest. Here's Columbus, Ohio. So it's southeast of that. And we keep zooming in here. Here's the Lake Elmer State Park. All right, now YouTube. Remember, you heard it yourself. It was said at the press conference. This is public record, even though this dot here is not an exact address. Okay, we're just going to be driving along the street. Okay, cool. Shame. People who might be new here may be like, why did she talk to YouTube like that? Again, if you know, you know. Yeah, they could take me down if they're like, oh, would you have doxed somebody? No. Public record and not a specific address being shown here on this point. But I'm going to put the little man here on Omer Street. Here we go, everybody. Buckle up. Stefan, are you here? Yeah, Stefan, remember to tell them to buckle up because I'm driving now, okay? So, Omer Street. Zen Jones says, silly me. Of course, she's already been on Google Maps. You know I like to drive around, especially in this case. I'm like, I want to see now who, where, what, okay? So you can see the area. I'm going to make it bigger for you. Hold on. Let me make it bigger for you. Yeah, okay. So, there are houses around, okay? It's not like there's nobody around them, because I was saying, well, if the population is like, whether it's 200 or 700 or 2,000, it's not a lot of people, not a lot at all. Then what on earth are they doing? What are they hiding? What's going on? Okay, we're driving on Omer Street now. Here's John and Omer. It says dead end. Okay, and it says slow children at play. Shame, just seeing that sign, you know. Go slower because there's children at play. Not from this house. Okay, I think yeah, we're getting to it. This is it. Okay, so now let's look at it from here.
Okay.
Okay, this is in this house. 16 children between the age of 1.5 and 18 were kept in a 12 by 12 foot home, 13 square meters. What? Allegedly, okay. But like, you know what really breaks my heart is just look at it. It's got wide open spaces. You can just imagine just kids playing out in the yard and everything. You know, it could be ideal. No, they were kept in the house, apparently for 4 years, apparently in a room. And in this house lived those 4 adults, right? You know, we've seen them, right? You've seen them? Them. And it would be mom and dad of the 16 kids, apparently, and the grandparents. So there's dad and his son, and then their wives, right? Okay, so someone's saying 20 people. Yeah, 20 people. And the 4 adults occupying most of the space, and then, you know, the 16 children in one room, just covered in filth, which is just what? Okay, so that is that. Let's just go this way a little bit. I mean, there's no one even on this side of them. There's no one here that can see them. There's a house over there. So to hide the children in a room like that, oh, wow. Like, what is going on there? What is the psychology, and especially of the 4 people agreeing, allegedly, to do this together? Because you can't say one of them didn't know, or 2 of them didn't know. How could that be possible? They've all been charged, right? Okay, so look here. Here's like a little cute little house, little kennel, little flag is up here. And the neighbors are shocked. As I said, there are clips of some of the neighbors, and they are very shocked. You could just type in 16 children rescued, you can find all the clips. As I said, some of them I can't play because some are more sensitive than others when it comes to fair use. Okay. Even though you're allowed to technically do that, some are like, no, we're going to strike your ass, and I don't want that. So that's where it is. Okay, this is the area. That's what we're looking at. Now, what I want to show you is the document, and then we've still got the new press conference to look at as well, which was slightly less informative, but there are things in there that I don't want to miss. I do want to show you because I was contemplating, should we really look at that press conference? The latest one, is it really interesting for you guys? I don't want to waste your time, but yeah, there are definitely things that are said there that I think we should all watch together. Okay, so thank you to Grizzly Cat for obtaining documents for us in this case. I'm going to share her coffee link in the chat if you want to thank her as well. So this is for Christina, right? But there's the 2 males, and then there's Elizabeth and Christina. Elizabeth is allegedly the mother of the children. All the documents are the same. That's why I'm just showing you one of them, one of the 4. We're not going to look at 4 of exactly the same documents, right? And so this will say defendant, and each defendant's name will be written there. Request for a warrant, and it says it just shows you when you see it like this. It's just shocking to see all the charges. 16 counts, of course, for 16 children, of endangering children in violation of those codes, a felony of 2nd degree. Here's another one. This is now the amended complaint. There was a complaint and then the amended complaint. If you watch their first court appearance that they had on Zoom, then you'll hear the one guy approach the judge and kind of whisper, do you have the amended complaint? Because what we did there was we put all the dates of births and, you know, they took all the children's names out and everything. That's what they were talking about was the amended one. So I'm showing you that one. I do have a copy of the other. Same, but obviously a few more details here. Unfortunately, I had to redact, of course, for legal purposes, also to protect minors. But here it will say count 1, endangering children, F2, and it's got the codes there on or about June 30th of 2026 in, you know, that street, Omer, Hamden, Ohio. And it says complainant for all 4 would be duly sworn, states that, again, each person's name will be put there in Hamden, Vinton County, Ohio, on or about June 30th, 2026, unlawfully did abuse. Okay, wait, there's one. Go up. There was one date of birth there. Stop it. Okay, wait. Let me redact it. Don't you worry about that. We're going to just quickly. I can't say you always. I always miss one. Wait. There you go. Okay. I went over this thrice. All right. Count 1. Endangering children F2 on about June 30th. You can see there. And it says did abuse. They've got the initials. They've got the dates of birth. And they know all the dates of birth of each child, which does tell me that I think they were born in hospitals. Otherwise, how would they know the exact dates of all of them? Or they must have birth certificates or something, right? Okay, and count 2, you can see here as well, June 30th, and there as well. For each count, they've got the child's initials listed and their dates of birth. So the reason I'm showing you this is, yeah, they very much know the ages and date of birth exactly up to the day. And again, I'm just like, wow, 3 sets of twins? Sure, okay. And then there was the arraignment, and each one has one of these. They just fill in the person's name. This is for Elizabeth Siders, July 1st, 2026. It says defendant acknowledged receipt of complaint, and the bond amount is $300,000. It's a cash bond or surety bond, and it says no contact with co-defendants or alleged victims. GPS monitor if released. I think they're gonna be released. Who's gonna come out of the woodwork and be like, all right, I'm gonna release them. Let's pay their bond. What? I think they're where they're supposed to be for now, right? And we'll see what happens next. And if there's going to be more charges, because they said they could be, right? Okay, so that's the documents, so we've done that. Now, so far we've looked at the first press conference, obviously a presentation with all the details I could find. The first press conference, map time, documents. Then this is the court appearance, and we'll look at the latest press conference after that. I just want to show you, I'm not going to show you all 24 minutes of this. I will link it for you. You can go watch it yourself if you want. I just want to show you how they look, demeanor, how they are, all of that.
Now that I knew who they were bringing you, these are case numbers 26 CR 50 and 53. All right, let's go over those together, all right? As a preliminary matter, are you okay with doing this by Zoom today? Are you okay with doing this through the computer today? All right. So, actually there are 17 here. I apologize, there are 17 counts on one of these.
Which then becomes...
Each of these counts is a second-degree felony count of endangering children, which is a violation of Ohio Revised Code 2919-22B1 and E2D. Each one of them alleges that on or about June 30th, 2026, that you did abuse a child under the age of 18 years old, and the violation resulted in serious physical harm to that child.
Okay, so they go over all the charges, they go over all of that. And there they are. There's nothing much more to show from this. They don't say much more. Let me go to here quickly. Oh boy.
They asked for a $300,000 cash or surety bond, and that if you are in no contact with your co-defendants or with the alleged victims, and that if you are released on bond, that you be required to wear a GPS monitor.
He's like, whoa.
Do you have anything to say as to any of that? All right, I will grant the state's request then. It will be a $300,000 cash or surety bond. In the event, well, first of all, no contact with your co-defendants. Don't be speaking with each other there at the jail. If you are released,
the way the judge says it, don't be speaking to each other there at the jail. Okay.
No contact with the alleged victims. Don't try to contact them from jail either. And you will be required to wear a GPS monitor at the state's expense. You would also be required to be a law-abiding citizen, keep the court informed of any address or telephone number changes, appear at all hearings, and have DNA and fingerprinting done if you've not done so already. Do you understand? All right.
Yes, ma'am. Jocelyn McKay said, how were they finally discovered? Because the police were investigating something else. The son, the younger Siders guy there, was allegedly exposing himself on several occasions that maybe, I would assume, the neighbors reported, and they were investigating that. There's some rumors as well that they were investigating DV allegations and things like that, but nobody really knew about the children. So they were going in with a search warrant to investigate something else, which the police are making unclear at this point. They're keeping that close to the vest, but yeah, that's what's come out so far. Exposing himself. And when they went into the house with the search warrant that they were executing, then they found 16 children in a room. A 12 foot by 12 foot room. Oh my word. Again, I'm just quickly going to go forward now and show you the the two women. So this would be Elizabeth on the right and her mother.
I'll be right with you. I'll change this in the house. You can. I apologize. The prosecutor went to get a piece of paper or some paperwork from the clerk's office. We will be ready to proceed in just one moment.
Okay, good point.
I thought maybe they just took the other one out. All right.
Here we go.
Case 5-1 is the state of Ohio versus Christine.
They look quite out of it, right?
Okay. Did you have the opportunity to read that complaint? Okay. I'm going to go over it with you because these are serious allegations and I think it's important that you understand what we are talking about, all right?
Seen the document,
All
right?
right. Doesn't mean you agree with them. I just need to know that you understand what they are. You have the following rights. You have the right to retain counsel even if you intend to plead guilty. You have the right to a reasonable continuance in these proceedings to secure counsel. You have the right to have counsel assigned without cost to you if you are unable to afford counsel. You have the right to bail if the offense is bailable, and we will discuss bail momentarily. You are not required to make a statement at any point in these proceedings that anything you say can and may be used against you. You have the right to a speedy public jury trial. Do you understand those rights? All right.
Yeah, people are commenting on all over social media about marks on her arm, on Elizabeth's arm. And, you know, I'm pretty sure if there's domestic violence or any other types of allegations, in this case, that they will see more charges or information will come out at some point, right? So, anyway, you get the gist, right? I'm going to link this for you if you want to watch the whole 29-minute or 24 minutes first court appearance. I just wanted to show you how they are in court. Here they are.
The indictment. If you plead no contest, the state would give me a statement of facts, and it would be up to the court to determine whether or not you were guilty based on those facts. If the facts were not sufficient, I would find you not guilty. A plea of no contest cannot be used against you in any subsequent civil or criminal proceeding, but you would have a criminal record if you were convicted under a no contest plea. A plea of not guilty by reason of insanity must be made in writing. Do you understand these pleas? And how do you plead? Stop. First of all, I want to remind you of your right to remain silent. This is not the time for you to argue your case. These are serious allegations, and if you are unsure on what to do, I will enter a not guilty plea for you until you can consult with counsel. Okay? I also need to advise you that because these cases came before this court on a complaint, as opposed to through an indictment by the grand jury, you have the right to a preliminary hearing. And that's a matter you can discuss with counsel once they're appointed as well. All right? All right.
Okay, so I'm going to now switch to the latest press conference, which is this one from July 1st of 2026. Let's watch this one together. This is 26 minutes long.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Irwin. I'm the Communications Director for the Ohio Attorney General's Office. We will hear this afternoon from Benton County Prosecutor William Archer, Benton County Sheriff Ryan Kane, and then Ohio Attorney General Andy Wilson. At the conclusion of the prepared remarks, we will take a brief question and answer session. Thank you.
Good afternoon. At 10:30 today, the four defendants were arraigned on 16 counts of second-degree felony, child endangering.
Okay, I'm back.
They were assessed a $300,000 surety bond per defendant. each other as co-defendants. They were ordered to have no contact with the victims. We believe, will be requesting court-appointed counsel and will anticipate getting ready for the next stage, which at this point would be a preliminary hearing if they request that, or if they don't waive it, and that'll be with their counsel. Right now, the abuse, neglect, dependency complaints that have been filed are being heard by the Benton County Juvenile Probate Court. The initial hearing occurring now, we are asking for temporary custody to Job and Family Services. The children are safe. They have been placed. We have some other issues we're still dealing with for their safety, but they are currently in a good situation and are being protected. The last thing I want to mention very quickly, particularly for our local community folks, is this is an intra-family situation. This is not human trafficking. There is nothing to put our other children at risk. This is clearly involved a multi-generational family in a very limited situation. We know the early reports came out that some of this might be going on, but we want to assure the public that their children in Benton County are safe and they do not have to worry about these defendants. I will now turn it over to...
Well, don't let your children near them, right? I wouldn't want I don't have children. If I had children, I wouldn't want them near these people. Oh, hell no. But I understand why they say that, because there were a lot of rumors initially when this case, hit the news that, wait, what? Could this be HT, human T, right?
Attorney General Andy Wilson.
Sure. Sorry about that. I just wanted to touch on what the prosecutor had said. Yesterday, I know everybody's got a lot of questions. The nature of the crimes, we have a lot of hurdles that are real sensitive that we want to get you guys information as quick as we can, but the age range of the kids there's a lot of specific hurdles involved in this crime. We will get you that information as soon as we can. We just want to let you know that, also to touch back on that the community is safe. They're just as safe as the day before you learned that this had happened. And we're still working on it. We're going to do the best we can to make sure you guys are informed. Thank you.
I'm Andy Wilson, Ohio's Attorney General. I want to open up by saying, like I did yesterday, like I do every time I talk about a criminal case that's just been charged, that under our American criminal justice system, everybody who is charged is cloaked in the presumption of innocent, and they remain innocent unless and until they're taken into court and proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That being said, I'm coming to this press conference directly from the Sheriff's Office, where I had the opportunity again to sit down with Sheriff's Office detectives and with some of our BCI agents, and I was briefed, updated on the status of the investigation and the case, and I actually had the opportunity today to look at some of the evidence of the case. I was out at the scene with our agents and the detectives yesterday, so I saw the location, I saw the condition that it was in. Some of the evidence, yesterday when I saw the location, the kids were already gone. They were being treated at the hospital. The evidence I got to see today was some evidence where the initial discovery of the children was captured or documented. And again, I've done these types of cases for a long time, and I've been in incredibly poverty-stricken areas in the inner city. I've been in poverty-stricken areas in rural Ohio, and I've just never seen anything like I saw today with respect to those kids. As we sat and we talked about it, the team and I talked about it, it really looked third world. It's the type of thing that we're not used to seeing here in America.
That's what we were talking about earlier. Sarah, that's not a good comparison to make, because most kids in third world countries, developing countries, would not be in those conditions at all. Not at all, So this is worse than that.
Where our children are really our most precious resource, and we have an obligation as parents, guardians, and custodians to love our kids, to care for our kids, to ensure that they are safe, that they are well fed, that they have safe conditions to live in. That's what we expect here in America. And again, what I saw today, the evidence, what I've seen to this point in this case is just almost beyond comprehension. that this stuff can happen in our country, and that it can happen in a house at the hands of people who are in charge of taking care of kids. In looking at the evidence, I can tell you without hesitation that a lot of credit has to go to local law enforcement who will have a VCI. I have the student superintendent of VCI, Bruce Pichanowski, with me here today.
Okay.
I have the on-scene supervisor, Jim Holford, who really was his team that put this case together and worked with local sheriffs, deputies, and sheriff's detectives in putting this investigation together. They took it to the prosecutor's office to get the warrant, or at least have the warrant approved. And the reason I say that is because, again, a lot of credit goes to the men and women of this investigative team, because I'm telling you, in what I've seen up to this point, I think if they would have waited another 24 hours, that there was a very high probability that we'd be dealing with a death or multiple deaths of these children. And I'm not going to go specifically into the medical conditions of the kids, other than to say that is, since the discovery of this situation, as you heard the prosecutor say yesterday, our number one concern has been the physical well-being of those children. Several of the children all of the children were examined and treated. Several of the children, I believe 7 of them, were taken to Columbus hospitals, and as I told you yesterday, I think at least 2 of them were care flighted. Those children, again, continue. We continue to treat, make sure that they are okay. Their physical well-being is our number one concern. But we also have to be concerned with their mental and emotional well-being as well. And I can tell you, on behalf of the investigative team, on behalf of the prosecutor, the sheriff's office, that is the number one priority, is make sure that these kids are taken care of physically, mentally, and emotionally. And part of that, as you heard...
Sir, I'm so sorry. I have to find a moment just to get a word in, okay? Excuse me, sir. There's a lady in Switzerland trying to talk. Okay, Tracy DGC said abuse is abuse. Has nothing to do with being in America versus third world country, right? And while poverty is terrible, there are families experiencing it who will not have their children, 16 children in a 12 by 12 foot room covered in feces, you know what I mean? And as we drove around, you could see nature's right outside. They could be outside, they could be playing, all of that. So yeah, abuse is abuse. I agree, Tracy.
Prosecutors say is making sure that they are placed, that custody of these children is removed from the people who did this to them, and that these kids are placed in safe, loving environments where, again, it's going to take a lot of work to address the emotional harm and some of the issues that are going to result from this. But we need to make sure that those kids are surrounded and loved and supported by people who truly care for them. And we talked to the investigative team this morning, and it appears from the evidence in this case that these kids have been in a position where people they should have been able to trust to take care of them have failed them. Not only failed them, but harmed them. And it's now up to us to stand up for those kids. And you saw that yesterday from the detectives, the agents who went in and removed the kids from this physical location. But now it's on the system, and working with Prosecutor Archer and talking with him through the case, he understands fully that one of the best ways that you can help these kids, one of the best ways that you can address their long-term emotional and mental needs is by holding accountable the people who harm them. And talking to him about the evidence, and talking to him about his plan for the case, I am confident that he's dedicated to seeing that justice is done for these kids, and that the community again remains safe for everybody.
I really hope that they will be okay. You guys are saying this reminds you of the Turpin kids, and remember what happened there is when they got adopted, it became equally bad or even worse, or I don't even know how to deem that, but I really hope that they'll be okay, that they will be safe and loving families that will be able to adopt them, that they can have new lives, and some of them only 1.5 years old. I don't know if you'll ever forget, but hopefully they can forget, because they're so young. Shame, man. Miss K 1111 said, "You people take so much out of context." Now, can I ask who are you people? When people say you people, are you talking to the whole ass internet? Everyone from all these different countries in this chat? I don't know, but I wouldn't say you people. Don't paint everybody with the same broad brush. All opinions are welcome here, okay?
We've offered to help the Ohio Attorney General's office any way we can. We have our Special Prosecutions Division. I have Jimmy Lowe, who's the Deputy Attorney General for Law Enforcement. He's been down with us all morning. We've offered up prosecutors from our Special Prosecution Division to assist, and I believe we're gonna partner in helping with that case. But our role is one of support and leveraging our resources. I want to thank Governor Mike DeWine. I talked to Governor DeWine a couple times yesterday. I talked to Kara Windy, who is the director of the Department of Children and Youth, ensuring that the needs of these kids, the placement of these kids, because as you can imagine, placing 16 kids in a county of this size taxes the resources. I have assurances from the governor and from the Department of Children and Youth, the governor's staff, that they will provide whatever we need, whatever resources we need to support these kids and help protect these kids. The other thing I want to say is this, as the prosecutor said, this is isolated to an interfamilial event. The citizens of this community don't have to worry about their kids being part of this or somebody out there in addition to this that may be doing harm to their kids. But if anybody out there has information about this family and about these kids, if they call the Ohio Attorney General's office, and we'll have that number here available after this press conference. They call the Ohio Attorney General's office to our tip line. We certainly will give that to BCI, and we will want to talk to you as the investigation moves forward. So with that, I certainly appreciate the good work of everybody involved in this case. And Steve, I think at this point we'll just turn it over to a few questions.
Attorney General Wilson, I'll start real quick because I think it would be helpful for others to know you said yesterday that this family has been traveling and it's been here for I don't know how long a period of time. Can you talk about how long they've been in Benton County, and can you share any information about where they have been fired and perhaps other families in other parts of the country that may see this and wonder, wait, the Siders were living here and I'm worried about what might happen in my town. What towns have been here? Where did they come from?
Sure, we know that they have ties with Gallia County. There was some talk that they may have been down in Pike County. There was some talk that possibly they in Jackson County. There was some talk that they were up in Wisconsin for a little bit. And it appears that they've been back here in Benton County for about 4 years.
Someone is saying, I also wondered, did they have water and electricity at the house? Like, did the adults have TV, internet? I don't know all those. But they did say, I do remember reading that this house was owned by a trust belonging to a deceased woman. The previous owner passed away in April of 2025. So it wasn't owned by them. Even there's so many questions. I'm not going to go further than that. That's all I know. That's all I've read, and I'm like, interesting. Because were they working at all? Was the younger Siders Jr., was he door dashing at that time? Because they talked about him doing that when he was younger. Was he doing anything? Was there any income? How were they getting income? Did they get it from the children at all? That's why they say, there's a big investigation still going on right now, of course. This is very early days in this case.
Yeah, I'm not going to get to that because it's an ongoing investigation.
Yeah, Cherry and Max said they bought water at $1 store per interview. Yes, they did say that, but we don't know what for. But maybe they didn't have rainwater. Is that what you assume from that? I never assume because we don't know what for. But if they bought water there, sure, it would be safe to speculate that they probably didn't. Right? No running water in the house. Okay. And what happened to the lady who passed away? Anyway, let's not spread rumors here. Well, you can say if you know anything, tell me. Also, remember to call the tip line if you know anything, because they're looking for information. I just know that we all have a lot of questions, of course.
Attorney General, you said the conditions were third world. Can you describe some of the...
Rather don't do that.
It's almost indescribable. The sheriff is on the scene as well, and I probably ought to have him come up, but boy,
obviously kept that. As I was saying, most of our livestock was kept in better conditions than the children.
One would hope so as well, right? Do you know what I mean? Hopefully livestock are not in that condition either, but yes, okay, that's one way to put it, sir. That's one way to put it, which is just horrific. 16 children in a room, a small room with no toilet, just feces everywhere, and some of them on death's doorstep.
It was extremely high presence, I'm sure, of bacterial and human feces. It was just a disgusting scene.
Can I ask both of you, what did you feel like walking through there? Not necessarily what it looked like, what the description, but what was going through your mind?
So it was disgusting, even where the kids were. I would think it's typical. Most law enforcement have experience with homes in a similar fashion.
Okay.
A large number of people, though, the children were kept in a roughly 12 by 12 area. It seems like it's where they've spent the most of the last 4 years.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
So they do say the rest of the house was also in a terrible condition. But that's tough. That's heartbreaking. Hey, imagine being one of those children in that room. Allegedly 24/7 for 4 years. We don't know that. We don't know that at this stage, but they say they think they were kept in that room for 4 years. So they're not getting education, they're not playing, there's no mental stimulation, there's no needs being met, there's nothing. Terrible, right? Carol said hospital didn't see red flags, numerous births. I mean, that's a good question as well. Thank you so much for your sticker.
In a weird way, you're hit with those two emotions. There is joy when we realize that we're about to change 16 lives for the better. But you're also, it's hard.
Were there any signs of sexual abuse towards the children? And did they ever go
It's
outside?
part of the ongoing investigation.
Yeah, when did this system become not necessary?
Yeah, so I'll answer. That part of the ongoing investigation, we can't answer. I will tell you this. There isn't much evidence that kids live there.
Shame. So like no toys, no anything. I mean, we're stating the obvious, but it's just really, truly, the neglect on top of everything is so bad. Also, for people still speculating in chat if the children were born in hospitals or not, it was actually Elizabeth Siders, the alleged mother of all the children. The attorney of Elizabeth said that she's the mother of all the children, and said Thomas Stolley said his client told him that all of the children were born in area hospitals, and she considers herself a full-time mom. So that's where we get that from.
We talked to some of the neighbors, talked to some of the people from the neighborhood. These people have been here for about 4 years, and talked to some people who live in the neighborhood who said, I had no idea that kids were living there. And talking about, somebody asked about, to describe the conditions, adding on to what the sheriff said. I didn't actually go into the room where the kids were. I just looked through the door. That was yesterday. I can still smell. I can't get the smell. I cannot get the smell off of me or away from me right now. We were just talking about that a little while ago. And then we were talking as a group about some of the evidence we looked at today, where they actually discovered the kids and found the kids. And it really, it's not that different than those old commercials you used to see of like kids in Africa, like just where they're covered in bugs and squatting and
That's commercial, sir. You can't say all developing countries are that way, but okay.
that like distant look in their eyes is terrible. It is absolutely terrible.
But let me just say, yeah, we're here for these victims, for the children, and what they're describing, the condition they were found in, is horrific. Just that vacant look in the eye, covered in filth, just most of them non-verbal shame.
Again, we've got to make sure the kids are safe, make sure they're placed in good, solid therapeutic placements, and we have to hold accountable the people who are willing to do this to their own family.
Were the kids enrolled in school?
No.
Are there any warning signs that investigators are now looking at, considering that this is happening in our community for such a long time and went unnoticed? What is being done about that moving ahead?
obviously you look at every single case and look at lessons you can learn or how you can do it better so conditions don't repeat themselves. So we're certainly looking at that. Again, the evidence shows that these folks were pretty good at hiding these kids. And I think you're going to see that part of the reason they were hiding these kids is they knew that these kids were neglected. They knew that if anybody actually knew what was going on, these kids probably would have been removed and they would have lost the kids. So they were pretty adept at keeping these kids out of sight and out of the eyes of investigative eyes. But we have an obligation, and again, that's one of the things I talked to Kara Wendy about yesterday at Department of Children and Youth. We always have an obligation to go back and look at these situations and look at areas where we can make improvements. And having worked with Dr. Wine for a long time, I know that's exactly what he does in every single case. So we'll go back and look at the full case, the full investigation. Really, right now, I told the investigative team this morning, even though this all blew up yesterday, we're really just at the beginning of all of this. We're dealing with making sure the kids are safe, making sure that the kids get placed, gathering the evidence, doing the search warrants, taking in the property, doing all of the casework type of stuff we have to do. I'm certain that down the road we'll look broader at those type of issues as well.
How did the system or any man or become aware of this, or was this done directly by law enforcement in a way? It came to the sheriff's department first, or how did you guys learn about it?
Yeah, all I can tell you on that.
Quick pause, because we know about there was another investigation going on. It wasn't a mandatory reporter. They didn't go to school. They didn't go to doctors. All of that. Now, by the way, I was just thinking, if they say that this family lived in that house for 4 years and they think the kids were kept in that room for 4 years, right? There are 3 sets of twins. They are aged 1 was 1.5, 2 and 4. So 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, 4, right? Which means, because I was thinking, shame, this is all they know. But that's not true for the other kids. I wonder what their life was like before. Because they are aged 18, 16, 15, 14, 13, 11, 10, 8, 6, and 5. So they knew a different life. Imagine the 18-year-old, meaning she would have known some, I don't know, maybe the other houses were the same. I don't know. What I'm saying is, the more kids they had, the worse the problem became. Like, think of the 18-year-old. So when she was 14, they moved into this home. And then had 6 more kids. 3 sets of twins. That is terrible. So when things are already so bad and you're already suffering so much as one of the children with these parents, it's gonna get worse and worse and worse and worse. Wow. Shame on.
That part is there was an investigation, so a parallel investigation going on for something else that led law enforcement to that house on the search warrant. And they went into the house on the search warrant and discovered this.
Should all the kids survive, and are they hospitalized?
So as of this morning, some were basically examined and released last night. Some were admitted to Columbus hospitals last night. I know that there was one that was in ICU, that was in critical condition, was intubated at one point, and I don't know who all's been released and who hasn't, other than the 7 were stayed overnight.
Were the children being isolated like this when you were coming, when you rescued them? Were they able to talk and communicate?
That's one of the challenges we're facing during the That's one of the challenges we're facing. That's why there's kind of contributes to a lack of information. It's one of the investigative challenges we have to face is that they are limited. They can communicate, but it's extremely limited. Some not at all.
Are any of these children, are they found on Amber Alerts using kids' platforms or anything like that? How long was the conditions deemed unsafe for officers?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. So as they were doing the search warrant yesterday and moving property, they literally were about to fall through the floor.
Was there any indication that they were involved in public life for education prior to being in county?
Not at this time, no.
How long was this investigation going on? Were there any complaints that were made to local child welfare authorities?
Well, again, I'm talking about the part of the investigation that got us to the search warrant. And that was an ongoing cooperative investigation that had gone on. Again, something unrelated. It wasn't about the welfare of these 16 kids. At that point, we didn't know that there was going to be 16 kids there. We weren't. Again, when I talk to people, people were like, no, I seen any kids. I haven't seen any kids there. So some of that is out there with respect to the parallel investigation. That was going on. I don't know, it was a joint effort between Benton County and BCI, maybe a month, 6 weeks. But that was not related to the conditions of the house or the welfare. Literally, they were coming to the culmination of that other investigation, which led them to do a search warrant at that house.
All the reporters trying to get their questions in all at the same time.
Yep.
That would be my least favorite job. Oh my word, trying to get a question in. Okay, so Cecilia Richter, 2458. Thank you for the Swedish krona. Is that right? You said, thank you so much. That's like $50. Thank you so much for your super sticker. You said, I lived in Columbus, Ohio for a few years and visited southeastern Ohio many times. The nature's beautiful, but it's very, very poor. It's bordering West Virginia and on the Appalachian foothills. Okay, thank you so much for your sticker.
Are there birth certificates for the children? Anything on record?
We're still part of that's still part of the investigation. That's something we're working on.
How exactly are the four defendants related to each other? I don't want to make an assumption here.
Say it. You could say it now.
Grandma, grandpa, father, and mother at this point. That's what we know.
Look at his face. Yeah, you know that's going to be a mic drop. What? Because everyone is wondering at first, who are these people? And are they related to each other? Or what's going on here? Do they know the kids? Are they yeah. And he's like, grandma, grandpa, father, and mother. Yeah.
So is it fair to say that what led you to find those kids was a parallel ongoing investigation at that time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's a great statement. Absolutely.
Can we expect more charges for these people?
Obviously, it's an ongoing investigation, and there could be more charges as we continue to uncover evidence.
Do you know if they'll have any more protection in jail? There's other protections.
Currently, at the regional jail, they are aware of their crimes and toward the allegations of their crimes and appropriately are treated as any other
We got a few minutes left.
paid accused of those crimes are violent population.
Also, USMC Mom 2016, you are naughty. You didn't watch my presentation. Thank you for being here. You said, in what way are the young couple related to the older couple? So let me show you this picture again. So the guys on top is their father and son, and then at the bottom is the wives of those two guys. That's how they're all related, right? So the mother, apparently of all the kids at the bottom left there, she is with the guy on the top right. See that? And they are apparently the parents of all these kids, according to Elizabeth, the lady at the bottom left's attorney. So that's how they all know each other. It's
Okay.
of the kids, the 16 kids, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. So shocking, I'm already.
Probably these children haven't gone to school necessarily for several years, and no one checked on them. There was no record of them.
I don't know if you were here for this part, but they clearly were bouncing around a little bit. So that's part of the investigation.
A little bit. Sounds like me. I don't know if you missed the beginning, but I don't mind. By the way, if you're just joining now, you're asking questions, please feel free to. I just also want you to know that at the beginning, we did a whole presentation with a timeline and things. We looked at the first press conference, we did some map time, we looked at the court documents, and now we're watching the latest press conference. We even looked at their first court appearance, right? Okay, so they bounced around. That answer tells you they didn't go to school. They didn't see doctors. They moved around. And then they were in this place for about 4 years, but no one knew about the kids. Oh my.
We're still working on it, and that's why I asked. If people out in the community have information about this family, we certainly want that information. And Steve, what's the number?
855-BCI Ohio.
855 BCI Ohio. 855 BCI Ohio.
And how were you able to acquire the dates of birth? Were you able to get hospital records, or were some of these children born inside that home?
So there's no evidence that any of the children were born inside that home, although that is something that they were initially investigating once they discovered it. But they were able to obtain that from outside sources.
Okay. You mean hospital, sir? Just say it. there's no evidence that the children were born inside that home. So you got the exact dates of birth, which means they probably were born in hospitals. Remember, not only, that's also the other thing. When someone said earlier, wouldn't hospitals be like, that's a red flag of this woman having child after child after child, maybe twins after twins after twins? Yeah, but if they're moving around all over, it's not like the hospitals are all communicating with each other, right? I would guess. So, yeah, they kept moving around, which is also calculated in my opinion, right? Let me quickly see. Wait, somebody said, there we go. Susie, YR71 said, bouncing around with grandma and grandpa, or did they come later? How long did they live with this couple? I also want to know that. You know, was it the parents of the kids bouncing around or all four adults? That's interesting as well.
First victim shows that they are 18 years old. Why is that in a child endangerment charge?
Good question. The young person's mental capacity, she is, we believe, developmentally disabled. Couldn't even spell her name at 18, and so she is developmentally still a minor.
Is it possible that that might be due to educational neglect and not developmental delays?
You don't go to school when you can't be educated.
That follow-up question. Oh dear. It's like, if you don't go to school, you can't be educated. Like, oh, okay.
Children know how to read and write.
Again, we're working through that right now. Some of these children could even speak. Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking. This is very. It was terrible. I mean, they really. It looked like almost feral animals. It was terrible. So when we're talking reading and writing and education, we're talking a whole other level of expectations here. Like it's hard enough just to give these kids to be able to the 18-year-old can't spell the team.
Attorney General, real quick, it sounds like it was an impossible scenario for law enforcement. If you don't know, you don't know. Things are happening inside all that. I'm sure you all can appreciate that. But is there anything to say that other communities that neighbors like any neighborly have not infringed and living up to all the things? But it sounds rather awful. Obviously, you would hate things happening anywhere else, but it very well could be. What are some things you can touch on that front? Maybe some recommendations just to keep an eye on if you see something really strange?
It's very important. If you see something suspicious or you have a gut feeling, there's no harm in calling us. I think a lot of people have this misconception of, well, they're busy, I don't want to bother them, or whatever reason that they feel in their mind. But when you see something or you think something's odd, there's nothing wrong with calling us so we can start documenting it. Maybe it brings it to the patrol officer's mind just to keep an eye on the house. Maybe he's catching something. But there's no reason not to call the sheriff's office if you feel like there's nothing too small. We will look into it.
Sure. The Attorney General said they were in a 12-by-12 inch roof. Was there a cage in that?
Well, but that was an approximation of it.
Was there a cage? No. There are any cameras there, like a door, a household door.
We're getting a little bit that far. Yeah, that's specific to the case. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's a pretty good question though. How'd they lock them in? What kind of locks did they have on the outside of the door? Oh man, were there cameras looking at the room? You know how these cases can go. They'll have cameras looking at them and shouting at them all day. Oh no. Also, wait. Oh man, I'm gonna scroll up again. I don't want to miss it. Batgirl said they did not receive any assistance unless the grandparents received something, as far as we know, right? And you also said, no, not born in hospital. The youngest ones didn't have any records. But on the court documents, they all have specific dates of birth. So that makes me think that... And Elizabeth told her attorney that they were all born in area hospitals. So I don't know about that. I've looked at what the press conference says and the court documents, and I go from there. Because there's a lot of rumors online, right? Now, imagine if, since they moved into this house 4 years ago, they stopped going to hospitals, but now they just said they were not born in the home, right? That's what they just said. But imagine if they're like, okay, let's not go to hospitals anymore. We're just going to handle all that here. Whoa, then they had 3 sets of twins. That's insane. Imagine just the coincidence of that. I mean, let's not go to hospitals anymore. 3 sets of twins later. Damn.
Child services.
Again, that's part of what we're running down right now. We look, like I told you, we're looking at the criminal investigation. We're looking at placement and protection of their kids, and part of the longer-term investigation is figuring out who's known what about these kids.
Did Elizabeth Sider birth any or all of these children? And is she a victim herself?
Then I thank you. That's it. Let's just see all the any seconds here. I just normally like it when they say that's it, and then just all the request questions all at once. Let's just quickly look at that again. Here, we'll look at this amended complaint quickly here. So this one, yeah. Counts. Okay, wait. Okay. This is where I get the information from, where I think that they had exact dates of birth, which, if they were born at home, I don't think the mother would be like writing down the exact date of birth, or that she'd even know at this point. So that's, I'm trying to use logic here, but help me right if I'm on the wrong track. So count 1, endangering children. So there's 16 counts for 16 children, right? On or about 30th of June, at that address, and it said did abuse this child, and there they've got an exact date of birth. Now what I'm going to do quickly is just take this off here so I can redact it and see. That was 2008. Okay, so they go from the oldest one, from the oldest. Okay, wait, I'm going to redact it again. There you go. Nope, that's not it, this one. Okay, so I just unredacted for myself so I could see, and then I carried on. So this one is from 2008, and in count 2, they've also got the exact date of birth, because I went in and I had to redact all these, you know, in 3 places for each one. So what we want to do is go to the youngest ones here. Okay, so it'll be like the 3 sets of twins, I guess. Sorry, I'm going to have to take it off the screen again. Hold on. Count 14, 15, 16. Let me see what the date is. 2025. 2025. That's an exact date there. And here, 2024. And also 2024, yeah. So 2024 and 2025. That's what they have on here. So that's what I'm basing it on. That they, according to the press conference, plus Elizabeth Sider's attorney, the press conference says the Attorney General said they were not born in the home. Okay. Elizabeth tells her attorney they were all born in area hospitals. So, why are we even talking about this? Because people want to know, well, didn't the hospitals, weren't there any red flags? Didn't they see anything? And no one's blaming the hospitals. It's just people want to know, how can this happen? How can 16 children just be like unaccounted for, right? So, okay. Let's see. Do you have any questions? And then we're gonna call it a day, because that's everything we know so far, right? I'm gonna link that full first court appearance if you want to watch the whole thing. I'm gonna link some, you know, all everything I showed you today and more in the description box.
Well, that's pretty much it on this case. I thank y'all for being here. Hope we'll see y'all again soon. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.